Smackdown. The fuck happened? An absolutely shocking show, top to tail at the worst possible time. 3 weeks until WrestleMania. More questions than answers. A name change and a broken neck. I'm not amused. Vet's not amused. And John's looking at cars because he's having a better time than us right now. It's the Smack Attack. My name's McAffee, alongside my partner in crime, live from the car show, John Enright and the Vet. How we doing, guys? This could be an interesting show.
Yeah. Well, they just turned the music on here, so I don't know how much longer I'll be, but I'm at Texas Motor Speedway looking at classic cars. So,
if you're not seeing this live here, you're missing it. Be sure to definitely check out the video when you get a chance and see what John's seeing.
Oh, yeah, God, it looks beautiful.
I mean, I'm looking at stuff like this. Yeah.
Did you say there was a Cadillac there that you wanted to look at?
Yeah.
It is.
There's a Cadillac. There's some Chevy 1500s, classic. I mean, anything from 1930 all the way to, I think even up to they're racing cars over here, over in the corner over here. They've got cars racing, so it's all kinds of cool stuff.
They got the Ford GT there.
There is one.
The new one.
So we're gonna get ready to go over on this side of the fence, and there's a Ford GT. There's a Ford GT40, and then there's all kinds of stuff over there too. So I just kind of want to rub it in with you guys. I'm not going to stay on too long, but all I do have to say is last night makes me glad I'm doing this today. So
yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm glad the professionals are taking over, so I don't have to deal with this today. So
we're happy for you. We are happy for you.
Yeah, I did feel the need to run in though, to give a run in. And show that I'm working hard while you guys are working hard. So
yeah, I mean you've got beautiful weather over there, the sun's shining, beautiful cars, and we've got to go through the pits of wrestling.
Yeah, you're on the road to WrestleMania. Remember, James, you're on the road to WrestleMania.
On the fucking hard shoulder. That's what we're on. That's horrendous. Oh man!
Here.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, here, you guys. Here, there's one for sale right here.
Oh,
and there's a hat that says "Cocaine and Hookers." So,
cocaine and hookers.
It's a nice little Chevy GMC S10. Get you one of those.
Hey,
so that's they got all kinds of stuff you can buy here or whatever. So I just want to run in and say, hey, I hope you guys have a great show. Sorry y'all had to watch that last night, but I did want to just give everybody a run in. Everybody who's in the chat, want to say hey, miss you guys, and we'll be back all together next week.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate it, man. Good seeing you. Right. Now get SmackDown out of your mind and work hard at having fun, buddy.
All right, I will. All right, take care, fellas.
Bye.
G'day. Yeah. So I'm.
All right, now that he's gone, that son of a bitch.
I know
that son of a bitch.
Got away scot-free on this one.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. We all need a break sometimes.
We do. It's just unfortunate he picked a better weekend to have that break. And, I didn't.
And normally, James, I would say that we're gonna make up for it, and we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna entertain the people, and. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say up front, we're not doing any of that. We're going to bring everybody down with us. This is going to be a bad. This is going to be bad things to talk about.
Angry show. This is an angry show.
It's an angry show. It's a sad show. Yeah. So
where do you even start with this? Absolute.
I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you where we should start. Let's talk about you for a minute. Tell us what you've been up to. You missed some time, so. Yeah, catch us up on all your adventures and anything else in the news. There's been some things happening in the wrestling world that I haven't heard you comment on. So if there's anything that you want to get off your chest out there, that now's the time.
Are you referring to the whole CM Punk coming out to AFI by any chance on Sunday night?
Am I? If you felt something about it, then
well, I just don't understand the whole everyone getting all up in their grill about it. You know what I mean? He comes out to AFI. I thought it was a really cool entrance. I'm not the most familiar with his old... I've seen his matches at Ring of Honor and all these things, but the entrance is maybe not something as familiar to me. But at the time, I got the vibe. I liked it. Excalibur explained it. It was like, okay, I'm good with that. I'm cool with this. This works.
Yeah,
for
what
me.
more do you need, right?
Exactly. But then you get all these fans on Twitter and social media be like, oh, why are they doing that? Who's this for? It's alienating the modern day fan. It was like, I'm sorry, this is too niche for your niche form of entertainment, but this is how it is. It's like, it was 100%. Just a nice little nugget. It's not for everyone. And not everything in wrestling's for everyone. Sometimes these little things are nice little bits of storytelling. It's a reward. Maybe that's what I'm saying. It's like you're rewarded for following your favorite wrestler. If you're a CM Punk fan and you followed him for the past 20 years and he comes out with that, you're rewarded for that, for a nice little bit of trivia, a little bit of an Easter egg, and it fit the match quite well. Brilliant. It was a nice atmospheric entrance, I thought, when he came out, so it worked for me.
Plus, it gave Max the chance to steal the song at the beginning.
Oh, that was brilliant,
right? You couldn't do that bit and then just hit Cult of Personality again, right?
No, not a chance. Even though they did it when he won, which is weird.
Well, yeah, but that makes sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, now I'm taking it back. It's mine. You know, so that's still good. But then of course you saw the, you saw the guy that was whoever that guy was on Twitter, that Mark, that was like, can someone explain the CM Punk entrance to me? You know, like that. That's how I hear his tweet in my mind as I'm reading it. It's just like, and then CM Punk is like, you know, he insults the fan or whatever, and rightly so, I guess, because like regardless of what you think of CM Punk, yeah, sure, it was a dickish thing to do. It's also a kind of a pathetic dickish thing to do, to get on the internet and use the internet to ask a question that can be answered with the internet.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying when you tweet something like that, you're not saying like, hey guys, can somebody help me out with this? I'm lost. You could Google that. Instead, what you're really saying is, hey guys, I'm somebody and I want to make my opinion on this thing, and I'm passively aggressively saying that I don't get this. So pay attention to me. Pay attention to me not getting it. It's way cooler to wear ignorance as a badge of honor. Hello.
Yeah. He's like looking to get himself over on this, and it is just poor. It was poor form all round. Like, it was a bit of a shame. It was a really good match as well. It was a really good card. I quite enjoyed Revolution for the most part. It was quite a little long. A bit long. Some things could have been cut down a bit shorter. Maybe not. Didn't need to necessarily
maybe not
be there,
on the card at all.
Yeah. but it was
fine. But what about speaking of AEW, what about them buying a whole other company? Did you get a chance to talk about that?
I've not really spoken about Ring of Honor yet. I'm quite pleased for them. Good for them. They've got Ring of Honor. CM Punk, funnily enough, we mentioned him there. He got quite emotional about it. I suppose his kind of emotions towards WWE are another thing, but no, I quite liked it. And you know what? It ties in. It sounds so small, but it ties it all together now, because the first AEW show, in a sense, is on the card now. They've got a hold of it on the library in terms of All In. So it's the threads there now. So everything about the history of AEW is with AEW now. And I think a lot more people will be happier knowing it's with someone like a Tony Khan. I think Punk kind of said it quite well when it said it's with a company that's probably going to treat it right, rather than just put it on a tab on Peacock somewhere. You'd actually, well, you'd think anyway, they're going to put a bit of effort behind it, a bit of thought, and build a product that works as a feeder system for AEW. Not unlike NXT for WWE, but I see it more like in MMA terms, like an Invicta FC or LFA that brings up fighters from there to the UFC. I can see it a little bit more like that rather than a full-on developmental show. I think it's just like a bottom underneath the main show to build up some names, get some name value in the talents, and then when the time's right, bring them up. I suppose that is NXT in a sense, but you know what I mean. It's there's a bit more to it.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to think of using Ring of Honor as a developmental when a lot of the places were, you know, like a lot of the polished talents were getting poached from there.
Yeah, but I suppose that's in a way that's what they're doing, but without the risk of other people coming in for them, isn't it?
Yeah, because all the guys that they've got wrestling on Dark and Dark Elevation, and even their other TV shows are like, those are the guys that need developmental.
Yeah.
You know, Dalton Castle doesn't need developmental. Not saying that they're grouping him in with that, but just to that idea, like it's backwards. There's a lot of untalented people working for AEW right now. And a lot of the people that were at Ring of Honor when, you know, the ship sank or whatever you want to call it, they were more than ready to be working anywhere.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I do
see,
find that funny, but.
Yeah, it's going to be weird to see what it's going to be like, especially when Tony Khan's come out and said he's going to book Ring of Honor as well. And I'm just sitting there going, that's too much. Like, too much. Like,
too much.
Stick with one, okay? You've got AEW, that's plenty. You've got too many people there. Don't start, because you'll stretch himself thin eventually. You can't not have same ideas over the same period. There's a lot of talent, a lot of airtime. I mean, he's already got like 4 shows, if you count Dynamite, Rampage, Dark, and Dark Elevation. That's 4 different shows across. Well, I don't know how long Dark Elevation goes for. It seems to go on for light years, depending on the night.
Well, I mean, you don't really write those. They're just a series of matches,
I suppose. But
so
you could probably assume he's got his fingers on the pulse on those as well.
Yeah, maybe
so
a little.
It's a lot. That's a lot to do. I mean, why not just like, I don't know, where's Gabe Sapolsky these days? Can you bring him back and get him back on the Ring of Honor train, or I don't know, like build like a core team. Like there's William Regal there, and there's some of the guys from NXT that are being closed off. You could probably bring them together, make a committee or a team to run the booking and the producing of Ring of Honor shows, and let them kind of take the reins a little bit. And if you want to jump in now and then great. But I think if you stretch yourself across too many shows, then eventually they're going to suffer collectively because of it.
Well, when we get committees, we get early 90s WCW and we get current WWE. So maybe committees are not the best way to go. Maybe it's better to just give Tony Khan more, let's just say uppers, and keep him busy with all that stuff rather than try to handle. But here's the thing though that people have to understand, because I do agree that it's crazy and it's a lot on the plate. But I also understand the feeling of you, especially the way the wrestling business and the personalities in it is you only trust yourself to do the things that need to be done. You know, you don't want the squabbling of guys in a booking committee. You don't want to have to deal with like trying to correct things that you thought you could leave in somebody else's hands and then they messed it up for whatever reason. Not saying Tony Khan's like perfect. I'm just saying, but just for an example of somebody who needs to have that last word, it's better to just cut all the arguments because you already don't have enough time. So now if you're in charge and your word is law, then you're cutting out all the time it takes for people to politic and try to argue with you and stuff. And that way you can just say no. So in the end, it does save time as well. Time that he doesn't have. And also he's been doing it for such a short period of time. He doesn't really know who he could even trust to do that at this point. You know, you can't get to know these people on that level in just such a short time. And maybe after some people have proven to be like the loyal soldiers or whatever, then he'll feel more comfortable handing off duties. But for right now, for whatever reason, he just feels, I don't think it's as much ego driven as people may think. I'm sure there's some ego in it. You have to, if you're just like, I'm going to start a wrestling promotion, you have to have some kind of ego. But I also think that a lot of it is just like, I can't trust you guys yet. So.
And it'll be a passion project as well, in a sense, because you'd have to think in his mind, he wants to bring it back to the original Ring of Honor days, like the sort of 2000 to 2006, 2008 sort of period. So he's probably got that in his mind. That's what he wants to bring back. That's what he wants to do, and make another set of like your Bryan Daniels and CM Punk, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Kevin Owens. The list goes on and on because there's so many talents from that era that are shaping the industry as it is just now. So I can see why he'd want to do that. I'd see why he'd have that in his mind to go for it. As I say, my only worry is that he's doing a lot of work. I think it's a great move for Ring of Honor. It's a great move for AEW. WWE missed the boat, but that's probably to the benefit of everybody else. You know, I don't think there's anyone who could disagree that the Ring of Honor went to the better company, went to the better person. rather on this situation.
Correct.
But it's it's still early days as well. We don't quite know what his plans are, what he's going to do, who's he going to bring in for it, what channels is going to be on. Sinclair Broadcasting are selling us on. You'd have to think there's got to be some kind of deal to either keep it there, or is he going to look at alternative broadcasters or platforms? Does he put it on? I'm not saying you should put it on a Peacock, but like HBO Max or whatever, Hulu, things like that. Is he going to look at those platforms and put it on there, or is he really going to roll the dice on AEW's own streaming platform, which would be a bit too soon for my liking?
I think he's gonna carefully look at all his options. Does HBO Max stream sports at all?
I don't know. Good question.
Because I don't think they do. As far as now I have HBO Max and I look at it sometimes, but I don't recall ever seeing any sports, any live sports, or even recorded sports. Maybe movies about sports, or TV shows about sports, or documentaries about sports. Not so much sports. So I don't know if the first foray they're going to have into it is going to be pro wrestling, but then again, it's just more free content for them. They don't have any risk running it, even if nobody watches it, oh well, doesn't really cost them too much other than just paying the people to program it in there.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of risk and reward in it, but I like it. I like the idea of Ring of Honor being there. And it'll be good for Ring of Honor if they really do get traction, because now they're running under the bracket of AEW, where if they wanted to do a big pay-per-view event somewhere, then, you've got the right people that could manufacture that and make it happen. Now, that's translated to ticket sales and interest, but, they've got this Final Battle coming up. Or it's still to come, isn't it, Final Battle? Or have they done it?
It's supposed to be in April.
Supposed to come up. Yeah, so after that, anything could go. Anything can happen. Got a lot of comments about, don't you worry, Media M5. I will get to that nonsense. Don't you worry. But no, it's quite an interesting time wrestling wise. Jeff Hardy came back, which was, well, we knew he was coming back. Although I do appreciate him taking the time to dance before saving his brother getting attacked.
I think everyone appreciates that. Have we not? Did we all not appreciate that?
Yeah, that was lovely. So good little moments like that. There's some really fun. But I don't know. This Smackdown's just put me on such a downer. I'm like, where am I getting the positivity and the fun stuff of wrestling back in? This was just a brutal weekend of honestly, I wish I was back at the Whiskey Festival. That was where I was last week, by the way, listeners and viewers. It was last week in Cooper in Fife. It's about a 40-minute train journey from where, an hour's train journey altogether from where we had a whiskey festival. So you can go in and you sample a shitload of whiskey.
You don't say.
Yeah, who'd have knew? So there's lots of different distillers and types of whiskey. It was brilliant. So many great types of whiskey, and for 4 hours of drinking nothing but whiskey, it was a fun old time. I mean, they give you I suppose this is a glass of whiskey right now, but they give you sort of 10 ml, which is probably about less than a quarter of this glass, or maybe about a quarter, just short of half of that glass, and you just sample them. And sometimes you get talking to them, and sometimes they give you more. So you just go through them all and chat with them. Weirdly, and you're going to think I'm crazy about this, but one of the things that actually stood out while we were in the Whiskey Festival was water. There was a company there that were doing water from birch trees, and they were using them to sort of, because when you have a whiskey, if you wanted to kind of soften the kind of bitterness to it and put some flavor, get more of the flavors out of it, you put a couple of drops of water in it and add that to your whiskey. And they came up with this idea of having birch water in certain whiskies. It enhances the flavor quite a bit. And I was like, wow, it blew my mind, especially when you drink the water on its own and you think, it's just going to be water. But then you drink it and you're like, okay, there's a little bit of something to this. And then you add it with some single malt and you have some of that. And you're like, okay.
What's the difference?
Well, it takes a bit, when you have the whiskey on its own, it's quite a bit sharper. And you probably get a bit more.
Yeah, I understand the concept of watering things down, but when you're comparing it to regular water, you're saying, "Oh, this is just going to be water." Well, how is it different?
Well, it seems fresher. It's a weird way of putting it, but of course, it's not coming from the tap. But it's like fresh water. If you went to, I don't know what it's like in America, but if you went to a sort of river of just clean water, it was a bit like that, but a little bit of sort of woodiness to it.
Hmm.
The accurate term, but there's a little
From
bit
the
more,
tree.
because it's from the tree, yeah. But it adds a little bit to it, so I quite enjoyed that. Fraser's whiskey liqueur, strawberry liqueur, is always my favorite part of the festival. They actually take a minute, because I used to do a podcast, and we're actually bringing it back soon, touch wood, hopefully. We talk about it for ages, called Fife Club, where we talked about everything about Fife. And we did a couple of years where we actually covered the whiskey festival. So we actually did recordings of the show while we're in the whiskey festival, trying whiskeys, gradually getting more and more drunk as we've done it. But one of the guys recognized me, and we started talking about whiskey, how the war in Ukraine's affecting the whiskey business and imports and things like that, and Brexit. It was quite nice. It's quite nice to be recognised in that sort of way as well. It's like, oh, feel a bit big shot for a wee while. But it was a good day out. And right across from where we do the whiskey festival, there's a pub. So we go to the pub after. So naturally. And I actually messaged John, like, I don't know if it was like on the
you go in there and you're like, hey, buddy, you got any more of that birch water?
Totally. I need some more, man. I need some of the good shit. Don't give me that Highland Spring. No, give me that glass bottle of water. No, but we had a couple of pints, and I said to John, I was like, I had to get myself a Coke, and you know that's you've hit your limit when you're like, no, I need soft juice, I need drinks, I need juice, I need soft drinks to get me through this. But no, it was good. I quite enjoyed it. Wait for the next year to come, but I've given me some ideas for whiskies, because I came in with a mission was to try and find, because my best mate's getting married in 2 weeks, so. Yeah, I was trying to find
a gift whiskey, eh?
Yeah, for a nice gift whiskey. He likes really peaty, smoky whiskeys, so I had to take one for the team with some of those. I was like, like I don't mind a peaty whiskey, but when you feel like you're just like drinking coal, that's when I draw the line. Like, it's like, oh god, right? There's like, put it this way, the smoky ones were the ones that I poured away. There was like spittoons, but I poured some of them there. But yeah, it was good. We're doing more alcohol. Last time we came on here, I spent so much time talking about booze. It was insane. But I suppose I'm holding it off long enough. I'm not even. I was going to hit you with the wheels and doors question that's been going about. Fuck it, we're going to ask you the question. We've got 10 minutes.
Sure.
So there's this big thing, and people in the chat get involved in this, because I'm curious to get your opinions on this. But I don't know if it's went over to the United States, but here in the UK,
no idea what you're talking about.
So here in the UK, there's this big debate that's going on about this one question that someone pitched on Twitter. And it seems pretty straightforward, but then when you start to think about it, there's a lot of more avenues you have to go down. So he asks, what is there more of in the world? Is there more doors or more wheels? Think about that. Now, I said wheels. And I've been debating that to the hill. It's always wheels.
Well, I mean, my honest first reaction answer is who cares? But to play along with the game, I would say,
Bear in mind, non-compliance means we have to talk about SmackDown.
Right. I'm trying to think, like, well, where would you? I mean, okay, so if I were to say no, James, obviously it's doors, then so what comes back in my direction as an argument?
So my counter argument would be, like, if you look at your general house, right, you've got how many doors? So in this room alone, there's 1, 2, counting the fridge doors, there's 4 doors in this room, but then you've got other ones in the house. So naturally, I would say your first impression would be a house, because there's loads of doors in a house. So the more doors in a house would say more doors, because people naturally think cars. I've only got 4 wheels, but there's cars,
but wheels are on way more than cars. If you have a home that has a child who has a Hot Wheels collection,
exactly. So that's what I was saying. The Hot Wheels.
He could have, if he has 100 cars, then that's 400 wheels just in his toy box alone.
Yeah, and
you're not gonna have 400 doors in your house unless you're
exactly,
and then Jeff Bezos or something.
And then Lego, the company Lego, make 900 million wheels a year.
Right.
So if the answer isn't wheels now, it will be wheels soon, because there's more wheels getting made. But by that logic, we don't have to go deep into this. It was just a silly question to throw out and try and ruffle feathers in the chat. But you'd have like different wheels. There's wheels within wheels. There's machines with wheels that work in them. I work with watches that have wheels in them. All the equipment we use are wheels. Like I don't know, but you also have to think of the definition of a wheel. Does it need movement? Does it need traction? Does it have to be round? Of course, it has to be round. But there's a lot to get into. But you know what? It's a weird question to throw your way at a weird time.
Sure.
So we'll sit on it. We'll put a pin on that. We might get John back. If John pops in, I'll ask him it while he's at the car thing. Damn it, I should ask him.
The wheels and doors question?
You're like, mate, how many doors are at your car festival right now? I bet there's hardly any. But yeah, so I suppose...
is it time?
Social media question not landing aside. I suppose it is time. We've held it off for about 25. I can't believe we've held it off for 25 minutes.
Right.
This Smackdown is... I'm not going to say it's the worst Smackdown, but I would certainly say it's the worst Smackdown at the worst possible time. Things that you can't have go wrong, went wrong, terrible booking decisions, terrible promos, terrible matches. Like, I don't have a lot of good things to say about the show. At all.
Do you have any good things to say about the show?
I mean, Ricochet and Sami Zayn had some good moments in it. Good main event, but...
But even that was like...
Well, McAfee was gone, so...
yeah.
That's already like 2 stars knocked off the match. So
I felt... Well, we can talk about it when we get there, but I felt that perhaps they were slightly off their game a little bit.
I think everyone was. Like, from top to bottom. Like, it just felt off. Like, nothing felt right. From the very first promo, like from the minute you knew that Roman Reigns wasn't there. I mean, we opened this show with another recap of what happened at Madison Square Garden last week. They've written this one bit that lasted 5 minutes for a week. They put this on 4 times on Raw, which is ridiculous. And you think, okay, we're going to get something on SmackDown. We will get something. I'll tell you now, we got fuck all. We really did. I mean, Brock Lesnar was there. Good. Well done. Thanks. Lesnar's there for a whole 5 minutes.
Yeah,
just
of all the guy that used to never be there now is there, and Roman Reigns is not there.
Yeah. I mean, even the promo was a bit.
Which okay, so like, first of all, with the recap, let's talk about what happened at the Madison Square Garden show. Roman Reigns beat up Brock Lesnar. Okay, he used stairs, chairs, cousins, whatever. Like, blood. Yeah, so a little bit of blood. But my thing is this: like, things like this, we've just got to stop this. We've got to stop this. Like, oh, we're doing a big, we beat this guy down angle to get heat. Yeah. Nobody believes this shit anymore. Nobody really believes that Roman Reigns beat up Brock Lesnar. This is not going to fire people up like this is fucking Memphis in the 70s to get people to come to WrestleMania and watch this. It's actually having the opposite effect because stuff like this is so commonplace.
Yeah.
Like, we see people get beat up. How'd they end the show?
Yeah. But there's no consequences to it anymore.
No consequences to
it. There's no layoffs, no injuries. They're back fine the next week. You know that.
Well, to illustrate the point, here comes Brock, and he just looks mildly irritated.
Yeah,
I thought this was a devastating attack for Brock Lesnar.
Look at that! Look at that!
Yeah, look at that. Even though my hat, the shadow of my hat is covering it, and the camera's not picking it up. Yeah, but look at it though. See that just and so it should be Brock that's not here, and Roman is here. Yeah. That's what it should be. Instead, they got it backwards. So you got the guy that got beat up here, and the other guy's not here. Whatever the reasons for that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it feels like Roman got a week off, and he tried to cover for it, and they done it all wrong. I mean, you could have easily had, like, the Usos did a pretty good promo before the absolute shocker that was the Boogs match, for other reasons, not kind of dismissing the whole wrestling thing, but you know, you could have had them come out and say, you know what, we've done such a good job. We're taking a week off. Reigns taking a week off, man. He deserves it. He's holding this company up. And, you know, they could say things like this, or even Paul Heyman come out and lead the charge and do the talking for him. You don't need Lesnar there. But my only case would be is when we first watched this, and what they were trying to get over was Lesnar's angry. He's going to throw shit about. He's not wanting to mess with. My first initial thought when I saw that was going to be Lesnar's going to ruin segments tonight. And I mean that in a good way. I was like, Lesnar's going to just wreak havoc because Reigns isn't there. And he didn't. He literally chased Heyman to a car, which drove away. He stood there, and then we didn't see or hear of him for the rest of the show. He was gone.
Well, don't worry. We got plenty of havoc, just not from Brock.
Just not from Brock.
But it doesn't. But when that's what I'm saying. My thing is when havoc happens, we don't care because they're trying to book havoc to make things exciting because they know their show sucks.
Yeah.
So rather than be compelling just by doing your basics or building anticipation for something, instead they're giving it to you outright and then expecting you to buy it later. Yeah. It does not work like that. We'll go back and revisit this concept a little later in the show. But the whole thing is, you had this Madison Square Garden show. It was a untelevised event.
Yeah.
It's
and
for
plugged it.
They plugged it because nobody was fucking buying tickets to it because they don't fucking care. And then they show us what happened because they know we all missed it because we didn't fucking care, and they weren't televising it. So now even the people that were good enough to go out and spend their hard-earned money, what do you think a night at Madison Square Garden costs all told? $150 minimum?
Yeah.
For one person?
Yeah. That's probably in like a regular seat as well, nowhere near the front.
Regular seat, the parking, the food, maybe some souvenirs. You're probably looking in the neighborhood of anywhere from $200 to $300 to go out and see this show. And I'm sure it was a fine show and everybody worked hard. But for paying your $300, you should be rewarded by being the only person that got to see what happened in that building. Yeah. Instead, they just show everybody because we're doing an angle here. Did you believe that? And also their thanks for their patronage was a match with Austin Theory. I'm sure that just blew the roof off the place to see Austin Theory walk out to face Brock Lesnar. I'm sure they were all just pleased as punch, just over delivered, right? Like couldn't believe what they were seeing. Dream match.
That whole week where they were like, they're being tight-lipped. They're not telling anyone about who's going to be going in with Brock. They're making a big deal of this. And then it was Austin Theory. He got wrecked. I'm not even surprised by that. But at the same time,
they just
treat them.
James, you're aware of the phrase "killing the town"?
Oh, they've killed it many times.
I don't think that a good portion of the people that went and saw that show are ever going to come back. Nope. Like when you beg them to come, please come to MSG, please, and then you give them Austin Theory, with no disrespect to Austin Theory. That is not you all know what I mean when I say that. It's not about Austin Theory, the man. It's about Austin Theory, the idea that this is what we gave you for showing up. This is your reward for showing up. You get to see Brock Lesnar, which the bloom's off the rose on Brock Lesnar anyways. We've seen him. We know what's going to happen. It's, but maybe somebody's never seen him in person. So it's like, okay, an energy in the building. They want to experience that. Now they just broadcast that to the world. Oh, here's what happened, just in case. Not like man, you should have been at the MSG show. They'll never let us show that on TV. Anyways, back to SmackDown. So you've completely disrespected everything and everyone involved.
It was just shambles. Weirdly enough, it was the other way around. If Brock Lesnar wasn't advertised for this and Austin Theory's in the ring doing like an open challenge, hey ho, it's a lot better.
Well, they knew they wouldn't sell a ticket that way.
Exactly. Bloody shame that.
But it does. But one bright spot in all this, though, James, is that it got to kill 2 minutes right off the top of the show. So that's a couple minutes with this recap package that they didn't have to worry about. So that's good. Man.
Good time saved.
Winning
for garbage that's coming up. Mm-hmm, Heyman running was fun, I suppose.
Oh, sure.
He ran away. That was okay, but. Hope you didn't like the main event scene because it's gone for the rest of the night. Nothing else happened with that. But, right.
But we did get a debut of sorts. Mm-hmm. If you want to say anything about this I think you probably have a lot.
I'm gonna kill somebody.
It's gonna make up the bulk of our episode this week.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna say this right.
You want to take another sip first?
Yeah. I have to take a gulp, mate. Oh, tasty whiskey makes everything better. Yeah. This segment. Now, I'm going to make the case first off. Aesthetically, the three of them works for me. Problem. Reg Holland and Sheamus have this interview segment. They say they have a secret weapon. And this is where it went tits up right out the gate. Because Sheamus said, most people will know him by a different name. But we know him by his nickname, Butch. And it could be fucking anyone that comes out. Anybody. I mean, we've got a fucking roster in the UK that most people don't know. No offense, okay? But there's a lot of people who don't know, like a Rampage Brown, a Joe Coffey, a Wolfgang per se. You know, those kind of guys. Sha Samuels, you know, these kind of guys. But okay, we'll come back to that.
And thank goodness it was none of them, especially the Coffey brothers. My God.
Yeah, let's not.
That's what SmackDown doesn't need. Is more sleep-inducing performers.
Oh, come on, leave Mark Coffey out of this. I'm not having that.
Both of them. Mark and Joe.
Yeah, how dare you, son? But yeah, I would have lived with any of those to come out. But no, the guy that comes out, Pete Dunne. You know,
the bruiserweight.
Second longest, the bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. You know, the second longest United Kingdom champion. You know, that guy that's been all over NXT UK, has appeared on the main roster. You know, that guy that they built the UK scene around for. You know, that guy. You know, Pete Dunne. Fucking, they had plans. Ah, Butch. Fucking Butch. And why? Why are we doing this? Like, for real. Like, for fucking real. Why are we doing this? You could say his name's Pete Dunne. It works. It works fine. There's no problem with that. You've got the merch. He's on the game. He's in the fucking game that's just come out. You know, he's there. People know him. They'll buy tickets to see him. But no, we have to call him Butch. We have to refer to him now as Butch. And if you think it's just a fun nickname and we're going to call him Pete Dunne, no, son, not a chance. Because guess who got called Butch 1,000,000 times on commentary today? Yep, Pete Dunne. I'm raging. I really am outrageously. Like, people say, look, it's just a name. No. Fucking think of, like, right, what looks better? Bear in mind what I've just said. He's had a career in WWE for about 5 years, and he's well known in the independent scene, very well known over these shores. What sells better if you put him on a match card? Pete Dunne or Butch? Who's coming to see Butch? Like, who's going to pay a ticket if they say Butch on the marquee? No one. Not a soul. If you don't know, if Butch is a big deal, sounds fucking hokey to me. Sounds Southern wrestling to me.
Only Butch, too. Not Butch Dunne.
Not Butch Dunne.
Not Pete Butch Dunne.
They could have called him Dunne. They literally could have called him Dunne.
Or Pete. They could have just called him Petey.
Petey? Nah. Petey. Well, like, call him the PT Blinders. This is the thing, right?
Well, maybe not that.
Because here's the thing, right? What if they didn't say the Butch thing, I'm in. Pete Dunne appears, I'm in. Because it works. Like, he looked pretty good. Like, he had the vest and the hat. Like, I'm sitting there going, you know, it's a bit of a change of pace for him, but I like the aesthetic. I like how he looks. He looks intense. He's got a good physique about him. You know, he's with Reg Holland and Sheamus. They're building something here. And I said on this show a few weeks ago when Cesaro got released, I was like, oh man, I'm gutted. Because in my head, I had this Peaky Blinders stable where it was going to be Sheamus, Cesaro, Reg Holland, and you could maybe bring in Finn Balor to lead the thing. And you've got a nice stable that you could put forward and do things with. And I guess you could still do something with this, you know. Pete Dunne's a great person to have on that roster. So There's the positives. Problem being, they call them Butch, so now we know we can't take them seriously. We can't take him seriously. If you're expecting title runs from any of these fuckers, good luck to you. Like, ain't coming. And it boggles my mind how they can be so daft, so like negligent to do this to someone like Pete Dunne. And someone sat there and he had to say yes. He said, okay, I'll do it. He's off his fucking head if he's willingly done this. Really. Like, there's no business sense in it. There's no character sense in calling him this. Like, he's not going to sell tickets. He's not going to be on the marquee. And I'm being really brutal, and it hurts me because I love him. He's one of the best wrestlers they've got in that roster. And here we are making a mockery of him. And if he's not in on this, I mean, he re-signed late last year, re-signed to the company, and this is his reward for it. He could have went to AEW, could have went to Impact, he could have went to New Japan, could have some great matches in New Japan. No, he chose to stay there, and his loyalty has been rewarded by a main roster run. Cool, but good luck getting anywhere on that roster. Like that creative team's looking at him going, well, he's not going to be up there with Roman Reigns. He's not going to be up there. Fuck it. He's probably not going to be up there with Sami Zayn. I'm dejected. I really am angry.
As long as you understand that it's not you said they're daft under the sort of like pretense that, again, that they thought this would be a good idea. They know it's a bad idea. As long as you're aware that they know it's a bad idea, because it's funny to them. Because it's funny to them, James. They know they don't see, whoever's in charge, let's just face it, it's Vince or one of his other, hangers on. I don't know who. It could be Michael Hayes, it could be Bruce, it could be whoever. I don't know. But ultimately Vince has the final say. So if they convinced him of it, he's just as guilty. But somebody has it in for Pete for whatever reason, and they decided that this is how they're going to deal with him, because even as just everything that they've spent all their time, their money, their television time investing in the character already, and to just throw all that to the side and say, okay, we're doing this, that's a calculated move. Right? All they had to do was nothing. Instead, they added something that didn't need to be there. So for whatever reason, they did not see the Pete Dunne that we all know, the bruiserweight Pete Dunne and all the stuff he's done and everything. They saw a ceiling that was extremely low for that. So they said, okay, now here's where we're going to have our fun, because he's never going to draw any money anyway. Their opinion, right or wrong, that's what they were thinking. They get their kicks at his expense, because they see that his ceiling is only so high. He's a certain size. He's a certain look. They're not into that. They're much more into the guys that look like Ridge Holland. He's not that.
Why waste
time? They didn't change Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland was Ridge Holland in NXT. He came over to NXT. He was Ridge Holland. He's up on the main roster, and he's Ridge Holland. He didn't even lose the Holland. Like most people lose their last name when they get called up. They could just call him Ridge. But no, he gets to be Ridge Holland while he's there with Sheamus and Butch and Ridge Holland. You would think Sheamus, Butch, and Ridge, that's but he still gets to keep his last name. So a guy that looks like Ridge Holland, untouched. Guy that looks like Pete Dunne, Butch. See what I mean? That's how they think. And that's why I want to educate everybody that's scratching their head or much worse in your case, probably pulling their hair out, whatever. Don't do it, James. Your hair's lovely. Just calm down, take another sip. But for the people that don't understand and they really think that the WWE is doing their best and just failing, they're not. They're doing their worst and they're laughing about it. And then you see how the certain guys that they have earmarked for things, you see how that goes. It's totally different. So that's what it is. Now here's my question. Here's my question for you though. Does Butch have some kind of a connotation in the UK that I'm not aware of?
Nope.
It's just as dumb over there as it is here, right? Is that even a common nickname for guys?
It's a slang for a lesbian term, I suppose. Like
Yeah, we usually use that as an adjective for it doesn't even have to be a lesbian. Any woman that looks like man-ish,
a guy, or even like a guy. You know, if you're bulky and big, bitch, like that. But nah, it doesn't mean anything.
Not popularly used, right? Because I'm not up on my UK slang. So if something has come along in the past few years that I'm not aware of, that's why I want to double check with you and see. I got a man on the inside, guys. He's
really weird.
he's from around the area, so
I'm useful.
but no, apparently it's just as dumb. So there really is no reason for it. It couldn't even be something like they couldn't have gone to him and say like, oh, what's a one-word name that kind of like says, hey, you know, I'm from England and I'm a badass, or what do you guys call that there? They could have had something like that, and they, you know, I don't think they did, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't get the logic of it either. But what I'll ask you, I'll have got a question for this. Like, I appreciate that they might see him, he has a glass ceiling. There's only so far he can go and what they can take him. But surely the sensible brain, and I suppose this is WWE, you've pointed out that they're only doing this for fun rather than for business sense. But if you've got a ceiling for someone as a talent, surely the best thing for that is to have them as a utility player. You know, you're maybe not going to have them top of the card. You maybe not do a lot of them, but you can have someone who can work a solid match. And when it comes to making someone look good, you can do that. Like, why not use him that way rather than this mockery? You don't have to take this step to mock him. You could do this, build him up, bring him in as Pete Dunne with these two guys, and have, because the stuff he'd done in like to Kofi was good. You know, he did the attack. He was solid. Maybe not the finish to the match, a bit soft for my liking, but you know, he was doing things that made it seem like he was off the handle. He wanted to be violent. He wanted to hurt people. That's good, because then you can have him do these in matches, and then say want to make someone look good off the back of that. It's like, oh man, he's a difficult customer. He hurts people, and then have someone get a really hard fought win over him. They instantly look really good, and you can't say fault to him because he's a heel and he's done his bit. And so, you can build him up again by keep that style going. So what they think they can do all that. And it doesn't matter what his name is. So they just call him Butch because it's funny to them. And then everything else that you said, they feel like, well, if they can get that out of him, great. He'll get over despite the name. And if not, then it doesn't matter anyway because we didn't have any hopes for him. So it's a win-win as far as they're concerned. They get to make the talent that they have under contract feel like they're being useful, even though they're being mocked at the same time. Yeah. But the only mockery is in the name. The way he's presented wasn't so bad. And they, you know, I can totally see Vince giving him that pep talk of like, you know, you're the smallest guy in this group, but you're like a pit bull, you know, like that whole gimmick. Like you could see him as like, you're the most vicious one of them all. You know, you could totally see him having those. Yeah. What, I don't know what that means, but anyway. You're like I can't wait for
like a small violent dog, right? So I mean, that's probably what ended up happening. And I bet you he found out that day, and I bet you he found out, like, you know, for all we know, he heard it right when Sheamus said it. They probably told him he was going to be
the minute,
because you heard if you guys heard the Raw and SmackDown review, or somebody was talking about was it Vince Russo said that Slapjack said that they told him his name was Slapjack right before he went out the curtain, right? You know, the reason why they did that, and those guys didn't touch on it, but the reason they do that is because at that point there's no time for you to push back, even if you wanted to. Even if you had the balls to be like, Slapjack, you're not calling me that. Butch, fuck you. Like, even if you were going to say that, now you don't have any time. It's too late. Yeah. If you thought you were walking onto that set with your little newsy cap and your little, you know, your little friggin' snatch getup, then and you thought you were being Pete Dunne this whole time, and then Sheamus just says Butch because only Vince smartened him up and didn't smarten you up. What are you going to say? Hey, I'm not Butch, I'm Pete Dunne, live on SmackDown? No, you're not going to say that. So you just have to go with it now. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's why you would tell a guy like, Slapjack, like your name's Slapjack, because
Good luck.
he can't argue now. It's too late. He's got to go through the curtain. You know that they'll do that.
Yeah.
And why would you do that unless you knew that it was shitty and you were doing it on purpose, right? Because otherwise, why would you expect them to come back at you?
I mean, like, I fully understand, like, if they did it and no one knew really had done. But because they've cut off their nose to spite their face for a laugh. Because they put all this time. To be fair, Triple H was the main one behind that. But, you know, they've invested all this time, promotion, and as I mentioned, NXT UK was made essentially for him. To, you know, that was their playing ground. And then once he lost the title, he moved on. It's just bizarre. Like,
It's not even the first time it's happened this quarter.
Yeah, but then
you had Walter do the exact same thing. You've branded this man under your umbrella as this, and then at the last second you decide to just change it to something completely different. And it's not like the old days where nobody saw your territory stuff. Like, you've been broadcasting this. It's been on television.
Yep.
It's been on the network. It's been on everything, and it's been WWE the whole time. If you wanted to call him Butch, you should have called him Butch back in 2016 or whenever they started this shit up.
The chance.
Yeah.
But the biggest irony of this, is we're looking at a WrestleMania. We're 3 weeks out, and they're still scrambling for names to get on this card. For names, like marquee names, big names that are going to sell this show. You've just named a guy something you will never be able to fucking name at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? It's like, if I'm sitting there, right, I need to make a lot of money once a year on the biggest show we do. So I need, like, John Cena, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, you know, names that people are going to recognize and see, like, marquee style names. Let's just put this into perspective here, right? John Cena versus Butch. Let's sink in. John Cena, international star, legend, movie star, John Cena versus a guy called Butch.
Yeah, the first thing anybody's going to say is Butch who?
Yeah.
What's his last name?
Bobby who? Butch who? You know, fucking, you know what I mean? Like, there comes a point where you have to look at this and not just think of it as, because they're like, we are superstars, we build stars. You got to act like it. You can't just brand these talents superstars and then not try and, you know, make them out to be. Like, if you're going to be bottom of the card, at least give them something where maybe one day, out of some happenstance, they might get a good thing on the card. When they go through all the matches, it's like this person versus this person, this person versus this person. Then maybe you see them and you're like, I'll watch that match. But now Butch comes up, you have to work harder to invest people. Now, don't get me wrong, they'll do stuff really well in the ring. They'll probably have some good storylines. But for people who don't know the product, they're going to see Butch, and it's gone. The investment's gone. You have to work 10 times harder to get a Butch famous, as opposed to a Pete Dunne, because it's a normal person's name, and it comes off the tongue quite well. Pete Dunne. You Pete Dunne fucked up. Is that what you done, creative? Jesus.
Yeah, but again, they didn't fuck up. They did exactly what they wanted, and that's the. If we come away and let's put a bow on it with this, and move on, because as long as you all realize that in their mind they didn't fuck up, they got 100% win. This is not a fatal mistake for them. They planned this. They executed this. They don't like him for whatever reason. The only reasons that they could be are only known to those people, and maybe not even maybe not even Pete himself or any of his friends are around there. Like, they may not know why they went with it, but it's just a rib. That's all it is.
Sorry, the head track.
So, Pete is
done. Thanks.
And then
it's done. Oh,
and then there was the actual match. Yeah, there was the actual match they were involved in. Which
Jesus fucking Christ! Right, New Day.
Should we just go straight to the?
Let's just get to the whole talking point.
Okay,
of this
look.
match. Big E's gone.
I want to. to talk about this in detail, but I don't want to do it now. I have a message for everyone, and I want to save that to the end, because if I say it now, there's no way the rest of the show is going to follow it. So I'd rather just, we can't go back to just talking about shitty SmackDown after I say what I'm going to say. So
yeah,
we'll put the message at the end, but to talk about this specific incident that happened to Big E here.
That's what I'm quite curious to ask you, knowing you were coming on this, is that I don't want to say whose fault it is, but does this seem like more of a it happened sort of incident? You know, because it seemed like Big E didn't rotate enough, but then is Ridge supposed to help him over with that? Or is it a mix of the two?
Yes, and yes. It's yes to all those things. It's one of those things that just happens. There are reasons it happened here. I went back and watched it a couple of times. I slowed it down as best I could, given the circumstances that I had at the time when I was watching it, and to try to get a look at it. So we all know that Big E is an incredible athlete. Yeah. So essentially, we know that Big E, on his own, could leap into the air, do a front somersault, and land on his back. Like, he could take the overhead belly-to-belly suplex bump by himself. I mean, any wrestler with any athletic ability can do that. Even I can do it. And I was very surprised, because growing up as like a non-athlete, like I didn't play organized sports and stuff. I mean, I played playground sports, but like I never went to any of my high school teams or played professional, you know, obviously. So like as a non-athlete going from the couch to the ring, I was very surprised to find that, yes, I can do the front flip bump. So I know Big E can do that. So Ridge Holland obviously does not really have to throw Big E anywhere. He's just there for the visual, and he can support Big E a little bit and help him get over. All right. However, when you give somebody like a belly-to-belly suplex, you're not going to pick them up under the arms, like under the armpits. That's too high. It actually reduces the distance or the mobility that Big E has for a flip, because he's got this huge man right in front of him that he's got to go over now. And if he's too close and there's not enough room, he's not going to be able to make it all the way. So also Big E's huge, and I know Ridge Holland is strong, but he's not that strong. So he can't throw Big E over his head like that.
He's quite
so there
tall
has to be
when he does it as well, isn't he?
A certain amount of cooperation, of course, just like with anything, is involved. Where they went wrong is that if you're going to do this kind of a move, you have to get the waist lock down by the waist, so that there's more room for him to go up and jump and for you to fall out of his way. If you get him too high, he can't go over. You have to go down. That way, if he's not getting over, you have the room that you can help him get over the rest of the way. You can push his legs or whatever the case.
Yeah, throw at him to get him over there.
Right. It was something that we learned in just training to do basic moves, where obviously an overhead belly to belly on the floor is not a basic move, or in the ring, but doing something as simple as like, you know, the lift up for the atomic drop. If you just put your arm, if you put the guy's arm under, like over your head, and then put your other arm under his armpit and try to lift a guy like that, you're not going to get him up. If you bring your shoulder all the way down to the lower back and let him jump up, you can actually hold a guy much heavier than you up there, because you've got that leverage from being lower. And it's the same thing with one of these waist suplexes. You need to pop your hips, be low enough, let him get over. And that didn't happen here. Ridge was too high, but he, in fairness to him, it still could have gone okay, because Big E's a great athlete. So this was just a very unfortunate accident. I'm sure Ridge feels terrible about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so if for anybody that didn't see it, Big E landed on his head. He sent a video from the hospital saying that the doctors are telling him his neck is broken.
He kind of sort of, I'll see if I can get the tweet up actually, because he sort of responded to it in the way that only Big E can respond to it, which is I quite liked about it here. Let's see if I can get this up quickly.
Yeah. Now Sonic saying people keep dropping people on their head in WWE. Last month it was Madcap Moss. Now it's Big E. Now the Madcap Moss thing was 1000% Madcap Moss's fault. I'm not really sure what he was doing. I have no idea why. It could have just been a tuck and roll instinct that he had, but he was supposed to take a flat face bump, and that was 100% on him. I really am just confused. He must have just completely got lost in the middle of that. Yeah. But
so for people who haven't been aware of this, I'm just going to bring this up now. I think this is coming up on your screens. Can you see it there? Is it on the screen now?
I don't see it. Okay, here we go.
I don't see it either. It's up there. Yeah, but mine's just got a bit slow. So so Big E did respond to this. This is what he said. Just kind of give everyone a bit of well wishes if you're watching this. If you've not seen this yet,
I can't thank all of you beautiful people enough for all of your concern and your messages. It's very heartwarming. I can move all my digits. You see that? That's nice. That's always a good thing. Strength feels fine, but unfortunately, right now they tell me my neck is broken. So there's that. But once again, thank you, everybody. I'm going to be all right. I'll be good. Don't worry. Go to sleep. Don't worry about all me. But for real, thank you. And I appreciate all of you, for real. I can't thank all of you beautiful people.
That was Big E. Hours. No, it wasn't that long after the show. Put that out. So it's nice to know he's kind of in good spirits. And
he sounds good. He sounds good, and he sounds, and it sounds like any major damage was avoided.
Yeah, so it sounds like maybe a small.
But yeah, so this is just
obviously out for a while, though.
Well, of course, but this shouldn't have happened. None of this should have happened. So, like I said,
like the rest of the SmackDown.
Yeah, much like the rest of SmackDown, unfortunately. And now, like I said, at the end of the show, just everybody remind me that I need to, get back to this. But so now you have the rest of the SmackDown when everybody sees Big E get stretchered out of here, and it's not an angle. Now everybody still has to go because the show must go on, and they've got to be thinking about this. And then maybe that played into a little bit of why Ricochet and Sammy just didn't have like one hell of a match that tore the house down. Even though they still, well, yeah, but I mean, you can just see by their general body language they are preoccupied. So
yeah, I mean, it is one of those unfortunate things. It's good that he's well and healthy. Interestingly, the next segment coming up, and I was actually going to refer to this as Drew McIntyre, the hit on him. But just before we talk about that, we're talking about
this is your guy.
Yeah, he's my guy, and he's getting wasted. He's being wasted. Basically, I'm not
another
happy
rib
boy.
Now, like I said before, I think it was on here one of these times I said this, like, Drew McIntyre is at the point where he can just say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Because he thinks in his mind that if he's a team player, they'll eventually get him back to where he wants. Instead, he should say, no, I refuse, because him being a team player means they're just going to keep seeing as far as they can push this.
Yeah.
And he's one of the only people that has that agency to say that. Like, if Pete Dunne says, no, I'm not Butch, he's out the door right away. If Drew McIntyre says, no, I'm not carrying a sword around and threatening to kill people with it, they'll be like, okay, well, then we'll think of something else.
Yeah.
So he has to do that because everything they've been coming up with, they can't do anything worse than what they've been doing. He's already at the bottom. So if he says no and they want to punish him, whatever they punish him with is still going to be better than this.
I mean, if you really wanted to, Seth Rollins still looking for a match. You could have had McIntyre and Rollins somehow. You could have made that work.
Well, I'm just talking in general about him carrying a sword around and acting stupid.
Yeah, because he can.
Take Happy and Madcap out of it. Like, just besides that, whatever you've got him doing with this sword, it's outrageous, and he needs to say no.
Do you think he made him a promise and said, "Look, God, if you get through this, we'll give you a big feud, we'll get you a title or something like that"? Do you think that's what they're saying?
My first question, if so, my first question would be, why do I have to go through this to get that?
Yeah.
Why don't you just give me that later? If it's not my turn now, just have me do something else. But what I do now doesn't have to be stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can just have a match with somebody else. It doesn't have to have swords and fucking guys that, can't even take a flat face bump and wear suspenders. And, what I mean? It's just like, we don't need this. We don't need this.
As well. This segment as a whole was awful. It was supposed to be Drew McIntyre and the Viking Raiders versus Happy Corbin, Madcap Moss, and Jinder Mahal, accompanied by Shanky, who people thought was Veer for some reason. You racist Jew.
It's been so long since they've seen Veer, they forgot what he looked like completely.
Shanky comes out, it's Veer. Shanky doesn't even have a beard. Come on, lads. But anyway, so they had this match. Viking Raiders get attacked before they get to the arena. McIntyre leaves the ring to help, but then he gets jumped by everyone. Happy Corbin, not Corbin, but Madcap Moss, Jinder Mahal, and Shanky. That's a low. Jinder Mahal and Shanky's been brought into this one. McIntyre fights them off like mugs, all of them.
What a hero! What a hero!
They tease some kind of physicality, but then it doesn't happen because they jump McIntyre again, and they finally get the upper hand. And then Corbin says something that probably should have been said on a microphone. This clearly was supposed to be for the promo packages and no one else. Because he turns to the WrestleMania sign, he points at it, looks at Drew and says, "You're on." No mic though, so crowd doesn't give a fuck because all of them didn't hear what he said.
Oh, I'm sure they heard it. He's got
Some
that
of them,
mighty Scottish roar. They heard it. It echoed throughout the bowels of the building.
That was Corbin. That was Corbin that accepted the match. He was like, "I accept." Like, there's no way. Could have grabbed the microphone at that point. I mean, and it doesn't matter because Drew cleaned house after that.
Yeah, so, including an overhead belly-to-belly suplex on another tall guy.
Yeah, which I was actually going to ask you about because Drew seems to like drop to the ground as he throws it. Is that to help them out? Is that to help them get the rotation?
It's just the way he does it. I mean, he usually does it when they're like running at him.
This is a bit more of a throw, like a gymnast sort of throw.
Right. Sometimes he barely touches him.
Yeah.
The Rock like that. You never notice that The Rock does that?
Yeah, but he's like, not the whips, what do you call them? Dragon's whip.
Oh, no, just The Rock. If you watch The Rock's matches, he just does an overhead belly to belly, but the guy just flies over him and Rock just holds his arms out. So, so I think Drew McIntyre probably saw that and was like, I should start doing that so I can be on The Rock's level. You could see the mark like Drew McIntyre doing that.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
I mean, I only call what I see, man.
But yeah, so confirmed. Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin at WrestleMania. Not quite the WrestleMania match we're wanting, but it's the WrestleMania match we're getting.
This better be on the fucking pre-show.
Oh my God. It's going to be on night one. God damn it.
Night one pre-show.
How dare you, Drew McIntyre.
We're gonna need Booker T to come on and break the match down afterwards.
If Drew's on the pre-show for this, I'll cry. I will genuinely cry. I mean, he went from opening the first WrestleMania post-COVID last year in a title match, a WWE title match, bearing in mind he main evented the last year's WrestleMania as well, and to go to the pre-show.
He main evented a WrestleMania with record attendance, James.
That's one way of putting it, I suppose.
A record's a record.
It wasn't even the main event of the night.
Oh.
Big Show came out for the dark match.
Oh,
go fuck out there, which we saw on Raw the next night.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's gonna be painful.
But it was good for the house. The people were happy.
Yeah. Cameraman loved it. Everyone in comments are going, "Oh God, we've got another match." Again.
Man.
Speaking of, oh God, we've got another promo segment on the Rousey and Charlotte Flair.
All right.
Can we just call this a submission match now? Because it really makes more sense if you just did that.
Don't worry, they've got 3 weeks to announce it officially. That it's
3
a submission
weeks.
match.
We've got 3 weeks of this.
Yeah, so exactly. This Ronda and Charlotte program is going great, isn't it? Right? Fans are loving it, aren't they?
I mean, what fans are you asking?
Did you hear these people? They could hardly be contained.
Oh yeah.
not to mention seeing a former main eventer just get fucking carted out over something stupid just a few minutes ago, and then these poor ladies had to go out there and try to get them back. They're not even equipped to do that on their on the crowd's best day.
I mean,
and then
I couldn't think you could put people further away from a situation than, but here we are.
And I'm not,
away.
I'm not disparaging Ronda and Charlotte. I'm disparaging the booking of this match because you already know what I said the match should have been, And they're only proving me right as time goes by, because now Becky Lynch got her throat smashed in with her dance partner for WrestleMania. Meanwhile, it should have been her and Ronda, and who cares what Charlotte and Bianca Belair do? But whatever. The problem is not just it's not with the women themselves. They're doing what they can do.
Yeah, but then are you given the piece of paper and says this is what you're going to say for the next 5 minutes, and
but even the piece of paper, even forget the piece of paper. This is the issue that comes down to the actual booking, like not just the booking, like saying, okay, put it on paper and go out there. The booking of like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. So you're trying to sell us something that we've already seen twice, which is this match, right? We've already seen them at least in 2 matches against each other. That's Ronda and Charlotte, and they're trying to make us act like we haven't already seen it, but they're centering this whole match now around this ankle lock thing that Ronda's got. Except we already saw Charlotte tap out last week, so the tap out should be the thing that we're paying to see. Like we're supposed to see. What?
Bet she had a $2,000 suit on and high heels. It doesn't count.
Oh well, yeah,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't count, but we still saw it, right, dude? Whatever your payoff is, if your payoff is, well, obviously, what they're telling me, if they have my mindset of booking, what they're telling me is Charlotte's going over. Oh, because the payoff is Charlotte gives up. Ronda's the new champ. That's your payoff. That's your WrestleMania moment. That's what they're going for. It's shitty. It's lame. It's trite. It's boring, but that's what they're going for. And that would be the best moment. So what's the last thing I'm going to do in the 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks leading up to the WrestleMania match? Have Charlotte tap out. Right. You got to pay for that. Yeah. You can have Ronda go for the ankle lock and Charlotte just squirm out of there like, no, but I'm not going to get my champion tapping out if they're giving up the belt at the grandest stage of them all, as they so repeatedly referred to it as. So like, what are we doing here? Do I need to come on to a podcast and explain this to the guys that work there, that run the company, how they're fucking everything up? I think they should know that. So why are they doing it?
They're very much the "this is fine" meme. The dog sitting around the fire right now. It's like, this is fine. It's like,
yeah, this is fine.
I mean, this promo for me was terrible, but it was, as you say, rightfully so. It's like, it's more for me. It's how it's presented and how it's written. I mean, it's like, oh, you didn't tap me out because I wore this suit. Like, great, you tapped still. Oh, but at WrestleMania, I'm going to tap you out. Oh no, I'm not going to tap out because I'm going to tap you out, and if you don't tap out, I'm going to rip your arm out. Like that. Although she said,
even though we're talking about ankles and legs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Shouldn't she have said, "I'm taking your leg home with me"?
Yeah.
Or your foot, or some other lower extremity rather than the arm, because we were talking about the ankle lock here.
Yeah.
Or she could have just said a limb. I'm taking a limb with me, so that it could be the arm or the leg. Oh, like anything except what happened.
Yeah, because you could be like, you're either going to tap out or your arm's coming out. Something like that. Rather than saying, I'm going to rip your arm out or you will tap out. Because the more extreme consequence should be the last one. Because it makes it sound like an escalation of what you're going to do. You're either going to... It's a threat. It's like, you're either going to tap out when you're supposed to, or I'm going to rip your arm out and it's your own fault. That sort of thing. Whereas, if you say, I'm going to rip your arm out or you'll tap out. Well, you've already hit the extreme. Why should I be more excited for the tap out one now? Because now the consequences of not tapping are kind of a bigger selling point.
I see what you're saying. Perhaps in the moment, Ronda mixed it up.
Maybe fluffed her lines a bit.
But and that's the thing. Like I don't particularly mind. Like Ronda's got her style that she talks in, and even if you punch it up with cool stuff for her to say, she still talks that way. That's just kind of how she talks. If you ever really heard her talk, that's how she always talks. So I don't think she's really necessarily bad at promos, but you struggle when the content is bad for certain.
Yeah.
And James, you're an actor. You know this. There's some things you can't act your way out of if it's that bad.
No. But
right?
Then you've got to have people around you that can help that. That can kind of... I suppose you don't get a lot of time to like rehearse it and go over it and things like that, as opposed to theater where you have weeks to rehearse shit writing sometimes.
The kind of people that name people Butch.
get me going again. Don't get me going. I've only got so much whiskey
sorry.
in this glass.
I'm
But no, but like sometimes you do need a bit of like workshopping the idea. Sit and try and like
Oh, the
this
Cody
doesn't sound
Rhodes
quite
method.
like, kinda, yeah. Like this doesn't quite work. This maybe if we say it another way, or try this, or if we mix it up, a little bit of that, a little bit of back and forth, but not too much. Like get them in the process of like, so that when you go out, you know what you're supposed to say and what you're aiming for, what you're trying to get across. Whereas if you're just mindlessly reading what's been given to you, you got to kind of do it like that. And if you're not that great at it, which I don't think Rhonda is, and I don't mean it to be harsh on her. It's like I just don't think her skill set or experience would allow her to go, okay, I need to say it like this because it makes more sense like that. She's not kind of following the emotion of the words. Then again, it might not be that well written. It could be just terrible grammar or things like that. That can come into it if you read it.
Or maybe one of your friends backstage just went to the hospital with a broken neck.
That too. But do we cross? How long do we do that until we get to the point of professionalism? Sometimes I get it. I can understand that sometimes that will be on the back of the mind. But as a professional, you've got to try and get that out. You try and kind of hide that away.
Well, she's not a professional at this part. She's a professional at punching women.
Yeah,
that's what she did, and now she pretends to punch women. And really, the acting part is just a little bit different. But like I said, even when you hear her just being herself, she's more or less similarly monotone. That's just her personality. Everybody doesn't have to be like a flamboyant personality, but it's compounded and more noticeable when you're trying to work with your shitty creative amongst all of the other factors. But
you need that other person to bounce off you as well. It's like a tennis match. Like Ronda's got her own style, and so Charlotte. You've got to meet in the middle. You've got to try and maybe that's more work on Charlotte's part to make it happen. But you've got to kind of help that along.
Well, Charlotte's checked out months, if not years ago.
1,000,000%.
She's already checked out. She doesn't care anymore. So,
like, rightfully so. If you said Becky Lynch was in this, how much work is Becky Lynch going to put into that? Like, and we saw last year, well, not last year, but the last WrestleMania they did and the Survivor Series thing, like Becky Lynch was the front, well, not the front and center, but she was like the leader of it. She did a lot more of the work and the leg work to get it going, and then Rousey did her part, but because Becky's kind of helping her and putting the extras, and it sounds bad when I say putting in the extra work in to make it happen, but in a way, some people need that. And it's not all of us can be like Oscar winner actors.
No, everybody can't be Becky Lynch. That's why she's the man.
Exactly. So when Becky's doing that extra bit of work, it works well because she's finding a way to bring herself around Rousey. Whereas Charlotte is going to Charlotte. She's not going to shape how she does her promos and how she acts around Rousey for that sake. She'll still be Charlotte Flair. Whereas with this, you need to kind of work around her. Rousey, as you say, she's got her own way of speaking. She's not a person of many words in general. Like, you got to work off that. You got to let that come through because it is badass. Like, if Rousey wants to be a badass, she'll be a badass. But you've got to let her be the badass. You can't be like, I'm better than you, because I don't know. It just seems.
Well, let's move on. There's no salvaging this. It's done. It's in the can. It's.
What I would say is, like, if you are going to do something, it's balance. It's all about balance. So if one side's struggling, the other side's got to help the other one out. So
I do feel that they both struggled and sucked equally. So there is a little balance in that. There was, at least on this night. But let me tell you something that didn't suck, James. I don't know if it's coming up right up, but my favorite part of this week and last week is these ads from Toyota featuring Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh my! What, they got Toyota ads now? We don't get these.
You didn't see this?
No, we didn't.
Oh wow!
We don't get all these ads.
Oh my God! So
unless I'm missing something, like
they went surfing. You didn't see this?
No.
With Boogs and Nakamura surfing.
Was this like an ad, like an actual advert?
Well, it was like an ad, but it was like also part of the show. It was like a very short, maybe 2-minute little promo video. Okay.
All
I'm
right.
sure it's probably on YouTube somewhere, but the point is that the reason these are the best things on SmackDown right now I'm quite sure the reason is that these look like they're produced primarily, if not entirely, by Toyota's people. And they just happen to be using these WWE superstars in their thing. So it's
not seen this.
The only real ad is that they drive a Toyota Tundra up to the beach and then go surfing, and then the rest of it's like their interactions. If you want to pull it up and play it, I'm sure Toyota wouldn't mind. They're probably going to try to interrupt one of your videos with it anyway later. So
after the Elimination Chamber show, I'm pretty sure we're not safe from advertisers anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
no, it's not there. I can't see it. It must have just been a straight up ad.
Well, they insert this in the show. I mean, the American viewers are knowing what I'm talking about. Media knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, Sonic, they went kayaking last week. This week they went surfing. So this whole thing is, kayaking was last week. It was surfing this week.
I mean, I know I drank a lot of whiskey last week, but
no. So, but the key bit is these are short. Okay. The photography is exquisite, and the guys feel like they're hanging out and not like they're in some low tier comedy skit, like every other thing. This is like, that's why it makes me think like this is probably, they gave these guys to some of Toyota's guys to shoot a commercial, and that's what they got out of it. And they got more character and personality out of these two than the WWE could in a year and a half. So, I definitely like that. I'm sad that you didn't see it. But what's the matter? You don't sell Toyotas over in?
Oh, we do. We just don't sell them like that.
Not on TV, not on wrestling, not on SmackDown.
No. BT have got their own things to show. We've got Bet365 adverts to watch. God damn it.
Range Rovers, maybe.
Range Rovers. There's a lot of. Try to think what adverts we've got now. There's Lexus adverts going on. Volvo is a good one. Renault, like a Renault over this way.
Any WWE wrestlers in any of those?
No.
Oh.
Not a soul. Not even like BT will now and again have a wrestler appear on adverts for events, but not on adverts, not proper ads. Goodbye. Not a chance. Right. Speaking of,
anyway, I don't know what was next, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I had it next in my notes.
Oh, you had some good things on TV. Back into the dribble of SmackDown. Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Shayna Baszler and Natalya.
Oof.
Oh boy. The show just keeps on going.
I've got no comment for this.
I mean, Sasha and Natalya maybe had a couple of good points, but that was about it. Let's just move on from that. Women's tag match at WrestleMania. 3-way. Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Zelina Vega.
That's a pretty hot 3-way.
Yes,
really a 6-way or a 7 if you're involved.
Indeed. Just sit back and enjoy that one, lads. That's all we say.
Plenty of diversity too. You won't get bored quickly.
I'm sure they'll split the time quite well as well. You know, that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, wait, we're still talking about the sex, right?
I thought that too. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Just making sure.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought that's what we were doing. Thank God. That's all we've got. Sex appeal on this now. Then we get to the best promo of the night, and it's not saying very much, but it was the best promo of the night. The Usos coming out, just slammed on the whole tag division. Said that management are struggling to find anyone because they beat them all. This is the point where I thought if you didn't have the Brock Lesnar segment, this would be a good time to have them say Roman Reigns isn't here. Said he's taking a week off because of this, and then showed the Madison Square Garden thing again. But alas, we didn't get good writing on this. We got garbage. But then they're talking about they beat everyone else because everyone's a 2 and they're the ones. Not quite jumped off the tongue as I would have liked, but I get the idea. I appreciate the idea. Fair play.
Yeah.
And then Nakamura and Boogs come out. I'm already annoyed because Boogs mistimes the Deo. I don't want Deo during the song. That should be like, there's silence, and then he does the Freddie Mercury shtick, and then the music starts. Not the whole midway through the Nakamura song where it doesn't fit. I'm guessing that was sort of like he got told he's doing this, and as he came out, the music started, and rather than not doing it, he did it. that makes sense. Like, he didn't use his instinct to just be like, no, just say, my name's Rick Boogs. No,
yeah, he's supposed to come out cold and start everything, and then,
But he didn't really get that chance, which is a bit of a shame. I think he seemed a bit sad, because even when he said, Nakamura, and he's like, nah, it's not the same. But he interrupted and said they want a shot at the tag titles. His leg is heavily taped. And then Jimmy says if Boogs can beat Jay, then they get a title shot. Boogs gets in the ring, takes that cast off his knee, and we have ourselves a whole 2-minute match. If that. Boogs wins. So we're getting Boogs and Nakamura versus the Usos at WrestleMania.
I love that they're trusting the Usos with the booking of not only this show but WrestleMania as well.
WrestleMania as a whole, yeah,
it's sure. That's very nice. And yet Pete Dunne has to be Butch, but the guy that got multiple DUIs, he can book WrestleMania on the fly.
That seems fair, right?
Right. He's earned it.
I mean, I don't hate the match. I'm just not a big fan of how they got to it. I mean, this was they're calling back to them attacking Nakamura and Boogs before a match, but like, why not have that rather than do the whole match to win this thing?
We've got 3 more weeks.
3 weeks too many. 3 weeks too many. This is the thing, right? And I think this is why it's bugging me so much about about this week, this SmackDown in general, is that WrestleMania season. This is normally the time where the creative is supposed to be at its tightest. The biggest storylines are coming. The better performances, like they really put their best foot forward between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And it's not just this year. It's been a few years past now, but that is just not there. The standard is so low, and granted, the standard's not that high, but it's not enough bringing it up. They're really putting their over-reliance on the names this year. You know, they're scrambling to have Steve Austin on the Kevin Owens show, and Edge and AJ Styles, good match. But then they're doing Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Rousey's coming back. You know, they're trying to bring in another name on top of Steve Austin for this. Logan Paul's doing this tag match. Johnny Knoxville's wrestling Sami Zayn. So they're trying to just, like, cram in. Oh, you like this person? Do you know this person? Watch WrestleMania and see this person that you know on the screen, where is the best WrestleManias. WrestleMania 17 is a great example. They built these matches. They built them. They had great storytelling. You had reason to come and watch these. And you used to be great for it. They used to have so many great storylines that built up your key matches in a card that you would come to watch this. Whereas now, it's just a hodgepodge of wrestling matches there, dotted in between big names that you might know, and you'll probably watch them because you know them. As opposed to, I'm going to watch this Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns feud because it's intense. There's this story, X, Y, and Z's happened. Oh man, I hope Roman Reigns gets his comeuppance. There's not really any of that. No. WrestleMania. It's not the best foot forward.
I want to ask you, even though I know the answer you're going to give, and I want to ask everybody watching, everybody that's live with us right now. I know some of you are preoccupied with other things. Canada Spaceman, you know, you do what you do. Aaron's in here talking about 2K22 the whole time. That's fine. You know, all this stuff. Everybody, but if I could just have your attention for one moment. Can any of you honestly take any of the matches they've got for this card at WrestleMania 2 nights in Dallas? Can you name one of the builds that they have done correctly that has got you excited for the match? Not just like, I'm interested to see this match because I want to see the match. What have they done? That's what I'm asking. Does anybody have a good build going into this 2-night event?
Nah. Honestly, no. Apart from Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. And the only reason is they've just built it like hell for leather. Like from the Rumble to now.
Well, how far back do you count that build? Do you count that build back when they were having matches last year? Do you count that build from back in WrestleMania 32? Well, like, where do you count the build? Where do you count the build for Roman and Brock?
If you're going to say it per se, I would say the lead up to day one, because they had to cancel the match, and then this is 6 months in the making, basically. It's not the greatest. It's not like, as you say, they've not even addressed the fact this is the rubber match for WrestleMania. because we had it at WrestleMania 31, and then we had it at 35. Was it one that was in? What was in? Where was it? One in New Orleans when Lesnar just smashed him.
Mm-hmm.
So, in essence, in fact, this isn't really the rubber match because Seth Rollins interfered in the first one. But yeah, this is the third time they've faced each other at WrestleMania, and they've not addressed
at WrestleMania alone. But however many times since, that feels like around maybe a little less than 10 times overall. So
a lot of them, a good few in Saudi.
And so you want to be interested in seeing it. And if there's certain guys that wrestle a dozen times, that they can, you'll get excited to see it every time. Now, I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone, but I'm going to say Okada and Tanahashi, okay? Those guys have wrestled 13 or 14 times in big singles matches. And every time it's part of a bigger story that grows with every single match. And every time they come away with an emotional ending that's really good. It's what we could have and should have had with Bret and Shawn back in the 90s. And instead, they couldn't work together, so it didn't go that way. And what they want to do with a Brock and Roman, where every time they get together and fight, you want to feel electric. But instead, we're all just feeling like it's tired and boring. Yeah. And like, oh, I just saw this match not that long ago. So, but even then, and they're doing their best job with that build. But everything else, even that is it's just standard. It's like the least build a match should have for WrestleMania. And then everything else is just a friggin' joke. So,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is like everything else, that's the problem. It's like they, up until the last couple of weeks, you would say, they've had zero focus on anything else at WrestleMania. Their eyes been on Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. It's like, how do we make this match get to here? And they forgot about everyone else. That's why we're having all these matches just thrown together. The women's tag match literally just happened because Sasha Banks and Naomi were like, we're going to win the tag titles at WrestleMania. Yeah, good. How where'd that come from?
Not even a backstage thing to talk to both of them to explain it. And keeping in mind, back when they did that, what did we have? 6 weeks to go?
Yep. And then,
so what are they shotgunning everything for 6 weeks ago when you had all this time that you should have been spreading it out on the way too?
I mean, Kevin Owens, for the longest time, we knew, or it was well reported, that Kevin Owens was going to do something with Steve Austin. And they waited and they waited. And then randomly on Raw this week, it was like, Steve Austin, I've been slagging off Texas. I've been doing this and that. Come to WrestleMania. I'm like, what the fuck?
And they thought that was good. Like, did you see the seeds we planted with him talking about Texas out of nowhere?
They did it. He said, I'm inviting you, Austin, to come. Are you going to come see me? And then he played Austin's music. He's not there.
Yeah, they just played that music just because they put the graphic up.
Yeah.
Where they had is it Kevin Owens show with special guest Stone Cold Steve Austin? Question mark?
To be confirmed. I mean, he confirmed it by jumping out of his car in the desert the next.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about. That's another thing that happened in your off time. Like, how did you like him having not even a 24-hour cycle later? He had a miniature movie ready to go to answer to Kevin Owens.
I know. That's come on, man. Come on.
Who was that out there filming him in the desert? His wife?
Yeah. You never know. They're quite close. They probably do some things on the ranch.
Kristen. He should have been driving his metallic P Ford Focus out there. That's where he should have been driving.
What they should have done is, rather than have Kevin Owens invite him to the Kevin Owens show, like, have him just rip the shit out of Texas for a couple of weeks and then just play that video on a Raw while Kevin Owens is in the ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that hard? That's pretty easy, right? I'm pretty sure I've just skipped a step or two as well to make that happen. Like, less work has to go into that. But there's that, the Miz and the Mysterio thing's kind of weird. And then it's like, Logan Paul, in you come. Like, okay, but what? Where's this come from? Like, weird, but okay. I mean, Johnny Knoxville won and Sami Zayn, we can kind of give credence to because they have, more effort on Jackass's part than
is that actually? And by the way, Liz said the Toyota Peeps, referring to who was out there in the desert with Steve Austin. So yeah, I'll give it up to Liz. But yeah, I mean, like, is Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville the best build, even considering the stupid shit they did with the cattle prod, and even considering that it still just came out of nowhere randomly, but at least it was tied around the promotion of a film, and it's been going on for several weeks, and it didn't just feel, even though it came out of nowhere, it still just feels like they've been doing it. They've been doing it since the Rumble.
Because it came from it came from this whole John Knoxville doing it, and it was a bit of a publicity stunt and all this stuff. And I think it is the second best build in WrestleMania. Correct, like I dare say it. But then you had the Rumble, all this stuff there. Then Sami Zayn's this got into like entertainment programs because Sami Zayn's invading the red carpet and speaking to Entertainment Tonight on the carpet, and then getting cattle prodded out of there. You got a free premiere ticket out of that. Well done, good on you. But they did stuff with that, and they kept it going. And Johnny Knoxville doesn't have to be there every week. You can have Sami Zayn do really good promos. I mean, the Zayn stuff here and there, maybe not the greatest, but that they've done something with it. It's not just been randomly thrown together. We've got a reason why this is happening, because Sami Zayn was unhappy that Knoxville had the audacity to say he was coming to the Royal Rumble to beat everyone when he's never wrestled, he's never had a match, he's got no right to do this, and clearly the only reason he's coming to do this is to sell a movie, which he is. So there's a bit of that where we can understand why Sami Zayn would want to do this. There's a reason for him to come after him, and even more so now that Johnny Knoxville started to fuck with Sami Zayn. So that, to me, it's not a great build. It's not the most well-rounded story by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
but if you compare it to, say, I don't know, the women's tag match, or the tag match that got booked for WrestleMania tonight, or Ronda Rousey and Charlotte, dare say, there's more impetus and reason to watch this match than any of those.
Yeah, because it's a freak show, because it's Johnny Knoxville, and at the very least, you're going to be curious. So that's good, but that's your celebrity match, and that's not even the only celebrity match, because you can have, right. So it's like, come on, guys. Well, so whatever. Let's just give it up for Sami Zayn for always making the full chicken salad sandwich and lemonade meal and giving it to us at a reasonable price, and let's thank Johnny Knoxville for actually showing up and not being detached from the whole thing until like the night of, and actually being a part of this whole thing and doing that, even if you don't care about Johnny Knoxville, which I don't necessarily one way or the other. I don't hate him. I don't love him. He's fine. And, I don't look at him as like disrespecting the business or anything, but I mean,
that's the other thing. It's that he's not really going out his way to make it look bad. Like he's played his part, and just, he's doing what he does.
No, I'm sure he would have been very down for a real cattle prod.
Oh, totally. Maybe not so much that, but no, I can imagine the conversation. Sammy, like, we've got this celebrity match. It's not the greatest, but you'll get a big match at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
free ticket to the Jackass premiere. It's pretty good going, right?
I don't see any reason why Sami Zayn wouldn't want that. He knows what it's like to have good, hardworking matches. Now you can see how good he really is by getting a guy in there that can't work and trying to work with him. When you've been around as long as Sami Zayn, doing it as well as he has, with as many people as he has and as many places as he has, you need something different just to break it up a little bit. Yeah. And there'll be
plenty of bells and whistles to make it fun and silly anyway. So I'm all for it. It's pretty sad that I actually think that's the second best build match of WrestleMania.
I think it is the best build. I think it's actually, to this point, it's better than. And the reason why I would give it over the Brock and Roman main event is because they, like, to my point about how long they've been doing that, and it's been sagging and crumbling and becoming boring under the weight of it, rather than building up to an anticipation of a fever pitch. Like, we have to see this match now. Now we're like getting more and more tired. You're giving us the match. You gave us the Madison Square Garden beating. So what do I want to see a match for? Yeah. You already showed me that Roman can beat up Brock Lesnar. So now, if Roman does it again, I'm not surprised because I already saw it. And if Brock beats him, then it's not believable because I just saw Roman beat him up. So why would Brock Lesnar now beat him up? Why wouldn't he get beat up again? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, these are the subtle psychological things that go through the average person's mind when they're watching this. It's like, if all you want to see was some physicality between these two big dudes, then just turn in the first 2 minutes of SmackDown and you could see that and you could skip WrestleMania.
Yeah, jobs are good.
So,
interestingly, we're talking about matches that got thrown together. Get to the main event segment: Ricochet versus Sami Zayn, Austin Theory, and Pat McAfee as a WrestleMania match.
Yep.
This was the match I thought was gonna happen once we got the theory of what's the Vince McMahon thing. I feel like they have missed a trick, and they could have rode the wave of making it seem like Vince McMahon was the guy to wrestle Pat McAfee up to the night. Because this was my thing I said a couple of weeks ago, is what they could have done is sell it as Vince McMahon and Pat McAfee up to WrestleMania, up to the minute that match is going to happen, and then Vince McMahon be like, I have a suitable replacement. And Theory gets a shitload of heat, and he gets it, and you know what, they'll probably have an alright match.
Theory doesn't get a shitload of heat. The WWE gets a shitload of heat, and now you killed two towns. Because that's a bait and switch. That is a classic bait and switch, and it does not work here where people are expecting to see something, and it might have been the reason they came. If you, again, using the Madison Square Garden thing I laid out, you've paid your hard-earned money, except now it's not $300, now it's $3,000 that you came here because you were going to see Vince McMahon get his old ass in the ring and get kicked. That's what you paid to see, and then you get Austin Theory. Why do both of these scenarios, by the way, have Austin Theory being the one that comes in and disappoints everybody?
Misfortune, pure misfortune on his part. But I suppose like you could counteract by saying like you'd have the match and still have that moment where Vince McMahon gets his comeuppance physically from Pat McAfee. I mean, you've got to remember, the guy's hardly a spring chicken now. I mean, you don't really want him to take bumps or major things, even though Vince McMahon would feel like he could. I mean, the guy jumped off a balcony to show Gronkowski how to do it. So, you know, there's that element. But then you could also build it up a little bit. You know, you could have this made up as Vince McMahon and Pat McAfee. And why not have Theory get a bit jealous about that? You know, why is Pat getting this opportunity? Why are you giving it to him? What about me? What, you've been molding me as like your guy. Like, why? How am I not getting the match? What do you mean I can't wrestle Pat McAfee? Like, what are you trying to say? Like,
right.
Have that jealousy. So
well, you could have had that. You could have had that even without the Vince factor. You could have, because all Vince went on there and said was, Pat McAfee, you're going to have a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then Austin Theory's be like, well, I don't even have a match at WrestleMania. So even if we never thought that Vince McMahon was going to wrestle, you could still do that same exact angle. And then Vince could say like, you know, well, you know, you could have him reveal to Austin Theory that he actually is going to be that. And that was the plan all along. And he got mad for no reason, but you just let him go on and on and on about it first.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, again, it just felt random and thrown together. Like
there's 100 ways they could have done it. They didn't pick any of the good ones. That's basically what you're trying to say. But let's speak of what else is not good. This actual brawl. This looked like shit.
I was going to say, it distracted a lot, and it was not great. Pat McAfee needs to work on jumping off a table.
Yes, he's
sort of kind of hunched over and a lot of not much happening. A bit of a brawl. Then Austin Theory gets walked off by security. Michael Cole was probably the best one out of this whole thing. Like, Michael Cole was like, Pat, calm down. No, stop it, man. Michael Cole should get a bit of a commendation, because I thought he did really well in this. He's actually being like, look, mate, calm it down. What are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah, but the one time he sounds believable, it's in a bad situation because he just saw the guy get slapped right in front of him. What the fuck does he expect him to do?
Yeah, exactly.
He worked his work environment. Think about his work environment. His work environment is people getting bludgeoned all around him all the time. You know, so like, why would he care if his announced partner gets into a fist fight after getting slapped in the face. We open this thing with Brock Lesnar bleeding from the Garden. We've seen how much else go on. We see guys like steal ATVs and smash it with hammers. We've seen what else have we seen just on this episode? I mean,
Big E breaking his neck.
Yeah, Big E breaking his neck. So like everything around SmackDown is always like constantly dangerous, and he's gonna get mad at a guy for fighting back after getting physically assaulted. This is all that happens in the WWE is guys getting physically assaulted. That's the job description: get physically assaulted. So even if Michael Cole is to believably pull this off, or they're to believably pull this off, then wrestling has got to be a lot more boring on a general basis for this to generate any excitement. But again, they're trying to book excitement, and they're desensitizing us to excitement rather than let excitement happen in very sparse instances other than just the traditional scheduled combat.
And speaking of the scheduled combat, as you said, it was not.
And it's the second time Theory did it. Liz said too. Just
the nerve of him. Like I wouldn't have minded like a bit of crossover, like McAfee coming. I suppose McAfee's a busy man, so he has things to do. But could be nice to chuck him in for a Raw, interfere on a Theory match. They'll probably do it this week. To be honest with you, they'll have him interfere in a Theory match. But yeah. It just seems a bit random.
What's Pat McAfee doing here? He's not on Raw. He's on SmackDown.
He's a SmackDown guy. He's not even a wrestler. What's going on?
Guards, more guards.
Just think, we're going to have a show at some point, if it's not WrestleMania, that's going to have Pat McAfee, Logan Paul, Johnny Knoxville, anyone else I want to throw in there, all in the same building at the same time.
What's Bad Bunny doing?
Stars. Bad Bunny as well. See if they add Bad Bunny to this. I'm like,
they should just have the celebrities have a match. It should be Bad Bunny and Johnny Knoxville versus.
This is starting a dangerous trend, by the way. Like this could get to the point where if it pans out well for them, almost like every second match on a WrestleMania card is going to have a celebrity involved in some way. They're like rockin' wrestling, lads, rockin' wrestling. Let's bring it back, 1986. Come on, lads. It's not the same. It's just you can't. We're the age of. Rocky, you had your gateway, job done. Now you have to do it yourself. This cold blood as it sounds. You got to do it yourself now. You can't have Cyndi Lauper's not there to help you anymore. Cyndi Lauper's not going to build that MTV show for you. Mr. T's gone. Well, they're not gone, but you know what I mean. They're not going to come back for this. You're not going to get. I don't know who's up there with Cyndi Lauper these days. Like Lady Gaga. You're not going to get Lady Gaga on these shows. Fuck that.
Yeah, don't keep her away from it. Liz says, can we get Poppy? No, keep Poppy away from this too. Bless her heart. Yeah. I think that, when you look at the celebrities that are coming in and it's like, well, they're not going to do it for free. Maybe some of them will cut you a nice deal, but they're coming in for these big paydays, right? And you'd have to do that because these people are going to need convincing why they should lower themselves to do you a favor and appear on your event. Yeah. And it brings me back to what Brock Lesnar was saying on that Pat McAfee interview that he's on when he's saying, he's telling the young guys like, step up, make money. You're like, what do you mean make money? People like you and these fucking celebrities are coming in and taking all the money. What do you expect these guys to do? So just shit like that kind of is annoying for me. I don't mind having celebrities. They've always been part of WrestleMania, but
it's getting a bit egregious now. It really is.
Well, it's highlighting. They used to accent like a WrestleMania is a big spectacle, big sports spectacle, but look who's here to see it. Now it's like
they were there because it's WrestleMania.
Yeah, now, and they'd show them in the audience, or maybe like with the case of Pamela Anderson just sitting there, just like here, just sit at ringside. But now it's like we need you guys to work matches because nobody likes our wrestlers anymore because we fucking buried them all and named them Butch. So we need. Yeah. Well, are you gonna tell the celebrities to come in and change their name? Just so they can work for you.
chance.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I think it's come to that point of the show that you have a message for us.
Oh,
I have
not
to remind
quite.
you of this, but
Not quite, because
Not quite,
remember
we've got somebody-
we had an Intercontinental Championship match.
oh Jesus, I forgot about that.
See, now that's another problem. You forgot that Ricochet had an Intercontinental Championship match, and you probably forgot that he was the Intercontinental Champion because they just randomly did it last week, and after he won the belt, they shooed him off, and you never saw Ricochet for the rest of the show. Meanwhile, we get more Sami Zayn and Fire Marshal Bill stuff, and then that's more important than the prestigious Intercontinental Championship. So
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of thought that Ricochet was going to lose the title back to Zayn because of it tonight.
oh, I knew they weren't. I knew they weren't because that's exactly what they wanted you to think, and that's what they think is good storytelling. Oh, we subverted your expectations, pal. You know,
Yeah.
expect the unexpected, pal.
You like that anxiety, pal? That's new entertainment. Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they had a match, but like we said, it was. I felt like they were off. They were probably worried about Big E.
Some
And
nice
yet
spots,
they still did. They still did a fucking Spanish fly off the top rope, but.
But
you know,
was that not the? Was it Spanish Fly? Was that not just Sami Zayn just throwing Ricochet in a suplex?
It essentially ended up being the same bump.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
I did like the Blue Thunder counter when he went for the running Hurricane and he just flipped him and just hit the Blue Thunderball. That was really nice. The moonsault pin combo. Can't remember what. I can't remember. I think he was like trying to do a power bomb or something really weird, and then just Ricochet did this freaky deaky flip and caught him and done the power. I like those little things.
Yep. And we got to see the 630 for the first time in a while. Unless you saw fucking Sammy Guevara on Dynamite. Holy shit! Did you see that?
Yeah,
Or whatever it was when
our spot of the match.
Well, he did
Going
like the he did the 630 through a table and just fucked himself up pretty bad. But I mean, you know, Sammy Guevara, you can't talk to him, but yeah. So
that was the other thing. The Sammy Guevara having that match, then Top Team attacking him, and then they were like, his girlfriend, Tay Conti, as if they didn't show him proposing to his ex in October. But no, let's just fucking ignore that. But I'm just fucking at straws here. But yeah, it was a good match. For what it was. It was
fine. It was fine.
Serviceable, done the job. Good for
and
Ricochet.
Then they did the oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say good for Ricochet that he got a main event match on SmackDown. You know, it shows how far he's come in the past month or so. That
it's always good when you go from 0 to 100 miles per hour. You know, when you get buried, never win, then all of a sudden become Intercontinental Champion. That's realistic booking. Yeah, everybody loves that. Everybody buys it. They don't have any questions for you. They just accept it. Yep. And Ricochet is one of those guys that whenever have wrestling on in the background and I stop and pay attention to the people I like, Ricochet is one of those guys. I've seen him as a guy that can be the main eventer in a certain role. And that role is that he's better than everybody in the middle and he's able to challenge the guys at the top, the Romans, the Brocks. Like that's his role, to be that underdog against those guys, but to be the overdog against guys like Sami Zayn. Like in my world, Ricochet would never be a doubt that he would beat a guy like a Baron Corbin or any of those mid-level guys. It would be like when you see them up against Ricochet, it's like, oh, Corbin's losing. You know, that's not how they've done it. Now every time you see Ricochet, you expect him to lose. So that's why when he wins the Intercontinental Championship, it just feels weird. So I hope he's happy about it, and I hope that they treat him better than they have, because they really got something with him that the people can get behind. I know guys like Ben and stuff shit on his promos and stuff, but he's just the aw shucks baby face. That's who his character is. He's not going to be like sassy, super sassy. He's not going to be super ferocious. You know, he's just going to be the kind of like a genuinely good guy that turns it up. So I hope they recognize that and they can get, give him the platform to do what he can do.
Yeah. So it was good for Ricochet, and getting a main event match, and
hopefully
get
then
more matches like this.
And then we got the end of the show, which was more violence. It was Ronda and Charlotte, I guess, was not done.
The brawl.
Yeah.
We saw enough of them today.
Yeah, well, no, apparently not. We got a little bit more. And they were trying to recreate that famous, whatever the build-up was to the last WrestleMania, where they kicked the car windows out and and all that. Cops getting arrested. But this was actually pretty terrible. It's shit like this where I understand why Kevin Dunn wants to do all that dynamic camera movement, where he's like zooming in and out and shaking it and all that stuff, because if you just held the camera still, you'd see how rotten all these fucking punches were.
That was just atrocious.
Absolutely. And Pat Buck was there, and this is for Sergio. He groped Charlotte and Ronda, trying to pull them apart. He'll do that. Pat Buck, you got to watch
boy.
him.
I mean, he's not a lucky boy when he finds out. But
yeah, Charlotte punched him in the face for it, so he,
take one for the team, mate.
some comeuppance. So yeah, so I take it you weren't too enthused by this action.
Nope.
This wasn't
Absolutely
hot action.
not.
This didn't make you didn't make you make sure your Peacock is renewed so that you can stream this live on WrestleMania Day.
I mean, by this point, I was already out. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm flaccid. You know what I mean? It's like, you could throw anything at me at this point. By the end of the Smackdown, it was going to do nothing for me. It brought me down. It brought me down hard. I'm glad that we're finishing up this Smackdown.
Yeah. All right. Well, the less said about it, the better. It did not. They already did not have the greatest showing, but that showing that they had earlier kind of looked like Hart Austin '97 compared to this. So.
Yeah. They really hit it home. Okay. God, Scott Wofford. I pay for Peacock, but don't pay.
Poor guy.
So what's the punishment for assaulting all these WWE officials? Don't know. Probably none, because Brock done it too. Can't sack the whole main event scene before WrestleMania.
No punishment.
Kind of productive.
Hey, remember the time Titus O'Neil grabbed Vince McMahon by the elbow and got suspended?
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Put that in perspective, eh?
Yeah, just wondering if anybody,
you can throw someone throw a sound case and it's fine, but if you just grab Vince McMahon just to show a little chivalry and let Vince's own daughter by first, God damn you, you're getting suspended for a month without pay. How dare you? How dare you? Yep. How dare you promote manners on my watch?
No manners.
Don't be a good guy. Be a dick.
Okay. So it's that time.
Oh boy.
And if all you guys, anybody out there, you YouTubers, you want to clip this or whatever, send it to whoever needs to send it to. Go ahead. I don't care. So, like we already discussed, Big E got hurt.
Yep.
Okay. And I thought about it while I was watching it, and then when I was watching his little Twitter video and everything, I thought about what I was going to say about it, if I was just going to talk about it during the show, or if, there was maybe something else. But I feel like there's something that needs to be said to a few different people. So whoever needs to hear this, I hope it reaches you somehow. To the WWE, not everybody, because as much as I shit on the WWE in public, I know that's just the name of the company. And I know that there's a lot of hardworking, good people that do their best there. Mostly the talents, but in the offices, in the production, everything. Like, they're just doing their job. And there's just a handful of people at the top that are in control of the circus and let things go off the rails the way they do. Those are the people that I'm talking to. So they know, you all know who I'm talking about. And if the shoe fits for them, they can wear the shoe. Because I don't know, how every single individual person feels. But the question I have is, are you happy now? Okay, a man broke his fucking neck out there. And why would a guy like Big E, or why would any of these people that take these risks on a night in and night out basis, why do they feel like they need to do that? They do that because of the fans, because they want to entertain the people. It does nothing for Big E to take a suplex on the floor on a random SmackDown, not even going into the pay-per-view directly, not even to be in a big match. If you're lucky, you get a match with these fucking guys on WrestleMania, just some tag match with him and Kofi against, you know, Ridge and Sheamus. Like, that's some kind of a great goal that you want. But he's doing it for the people that came to see him, the people that support him, because he thinks that's exciting for them. And the reason that he feels like, and maybe to get Ridge Holland over too, you know, as a favor to Ridge, like, we gotta, you know, whatever the motivations. But the reason that guys feel more and more increasing pressure to do this, especially under the WWE umbrella, is because the company is refusing to entertain the people in any significant way. They're not giving these men and women the help that they need, the promotion that they need. They do things like fucking name them Butch, you know? Like, that's the help they're getting. So they're like, okay, if the office is not going to do it, then I'm going to do what I can to be entertaining, to have a good match, to put on a good performance, to make the people feel like they got something. Nobody, and I mean nobody, 0 people have ever walked away from a SmackDown random tag team match and said, you know, that match would have been all right, but man, if only somebody got suplexed on the floor, I would have loved it. Nobody ever said that. You don't need to do that. We all love Big E because he's Big E, not because he does moves, not because he does anything, but just because he is who he is. I don't know Big E. I've never met Big E, but I feel like, you know, I feel like that connection because I've put on the boots just like he has, and I didn't make it near to the level that he did because I didn't have the same passion that he did for it. I didn't want to be a performer like he did, but he wanted to be a performer. So he goes out there and he busts his ass. And he has to bust his ass even more because he's not getting any help. So whatever you did when you said, oh, we're going to put the title on you and give you this run and whatever, like whatever you were doing when you fucked that off, I hope you're happy now. You know, and you'll be lucky that Big E is the kind of guy that's going to come back to work for you, even though he's really coming back for those people. And to the people, it's not your fault. You've been trained to be like this. You know, they've shoved so much stuff down your throat. Like I said, manufacturing excitement, manufacturing action, trying to make everything dynamic and exciting, and it's desensitizing you. So now you've become bloodthirsty. But I mean, haven't we always been bloodthirsty, James? Like if you want to go back to the Roman Colosseums, or even if you want to take it back to whenever the first cavemen got in a circle and had it out like over the campfire, whatever. People are just inherently bloodthirsty, but we don't need Big E to break his neck for us. We need him to come out, do the dance, you know, and just be himself. He can get over without doing that. So to the boys, stop killing yourself for a company that does not value you. Okay? They're using you, and that's fine. They're paying you to do what they want. But I guarantee you, as much as I shit on the WWE and those people at the top, they don't ever tell you, hey, you have to go out there and you have to get dropped on your head on the floor, or you have to jump off a cage, or, you know, again, they would never tell a wrestler to do that, but the wrestlers do that because they want to give the performance, like I was saying. So it's not.
Sorry, let you finish.
It's not about the company making them do that, but you have to realize that on a random SmackDown, you could do just as well to have Ridge Holland hit you with a clothesline, and that's enough. You don't have to go flipping over your head onto the cement floor, or anything that any of these guys do, like Sammy Guevara doing the 630 through a fucking table for what? At least that was a main event and a title match on TV, but he still didn't have to do all that. But that's a different company, right? I'm talking about it specifically the company that calls people butch and calls them happy and calls them madcap. They don't give a fuck about anything that you're going to do after that, only what they can do for you or what you can do for them now. And then they're not going to worry about you anymore after that. So take those chances very specifically and rarely. Those should be a WrestleMania moment. You shouldn't have to get crippled on a random SmackDown 3 weeks out in a tag match in Seg 2. That's not what you have to do. And no one's making them do that, so they have to stop doing that themselves. It's not worth it. The fans do not ask this of you. We love and support you. Don't do it. Just be careful. That's all.
I don't really have anything else to add to that. That was spot on. That was spot on the dot. The only thing I was wanting to add was when you mentioned WWE saying they don't actively tell people you need to jump off cages and do all this. The times that they do get you to do that, it's so constructed. They make sure everything's there, that it's as safe as possible, or as controlled as possible when you do this spot. Like Shane McMahon jumping off the Hell in a Cell, or jumping off the big things, or Kevin Owens jumping off the following off WrestleMania moments. Kevin Owens jumping off the signs or the spots. They do everything in their power to make sure that these things are safe. That if this big spot has to happen, they will do to be fair to them, they'll do everything they can to make it safe. Whether it's like a crash pad or done in a specific way. Whereas if you mindlessly do these in a match, as you say, to try and get yourself over or try and make it bigger than it needs to be, if you're trying too hard, then these are the risks that you're taking. If like Sammy Guevara doing the splash off into the table, there's no control, there's no production that's like got things to help make that safer. If it goes wrong, you're fucked. There's no kind of protecting yourself. If you do it wrong, you're in trouble. Whereas like Shane McMahon jumping off the Hell in a Cell that WrestleMania, if it goes wrong, there's a mat there that's going to catch him. There's a crash pad underneath that table that's catching him. There's people around that will catch him. Whereas everyone else, if they don't know what's going on, if it's not planned, they're in trouble. So it's sad in a way when you put it like that talents feel the need to do that, and it is a consequence of how they're booked. It's a consequence of how they're treated as products, as elements to a show, that a property that's how they're handled, and it really drives home into perspective that how bad it is when that happens. We don't really, I suppose we don't really consider the human element all the time. It's not nice to see someone get injured, but then do we break down why it happens? We don't do that enough. So I think it was well said that how you brought that together.
When you do those moves like you were talking about, the big stunts, you've never really seen anybody get hurt doing that.
No.
You get hurt by doing the stupidest things, and even if you do nothing wrong, you're going to get hurt anyway. It'll just be a product of wear and tear. I saw a guy with my own eyes in front of me. I saw a guy get injured tagging into a match. He tore his rotator cuff on a tag. No one would have thought, oh, tag team matches are dangerous. Don't do that. You could tear your rotator cuff. No one thinks that, but it's those type of things. Or speaking of shoulders and Sami Zayn and SmackDown, remember the John Cena thing? Yep, just doing his entrance. Yep, all he did was his own entrance move and tore his shoulder. So those are the kind of things that are going to happen, and they're stupid, but you just accept that as part and parcel of the life you chose.
Yeah.
So when they have a big stunt for you, it's probably safe. It could be safer than taking a hip toss, but it's those things that you take for granted when they go wrong. That's where it gets dangerous. But this was completely unnecessary. And you got to know that guys like Ridge Holland are too green to be able to take care of you in these situations. He has not suplexed a ton of guys. So doing it with a guy like Big E, that's going to be even more challenging for him. And he doesn't need it. And everybody that's out there, if you're a wrestler that's main evented WrestleMania, or if you're a guy that's just starting out and you're going to start training to be a pro wrestler, and anybody that hears my voice right now, if you're not comfortable with doing something, just say no. I'm not comfortable with doing it. They can work around it. Nothing is worth you becoming an invalid or dead just because you wanted to make somebody happy, or you didn't want to go against the grain, or you didn't want to do this, or you didn't want to do that. These aren't messages for guys like Big E because he didn't think that he would be uncomfortable doing this. It's just something that was a freak accident that happened. But you have to be careful of what you need to do at any given moment in time. This was not the match to even do something like that. And even if you've done it 100 times before, you shouldn't have done it the 100 times before. You only need to do it when you need to do it. And this wasn't it. So I just hope that everybody realizes that your health and well-being is the only thing that you're going to have when the business is done with you. So don't put yourself in a position where you won't be able to enjoy your life when you're done. It sounds like Big E's going to be fine eventually. So that's great. But what's it going to take?
Yeah,
this should be a wake-up call where nothing tragic, super tragic happened. This should be a wake-up call for everybody to reevaluate what they're doing, especially in the WWE. Especially, like, don't take any bumps for them unless it really means something. Don't feel like you have to do it, because again, they're not going to ask you to. They don't script out people's matches to that degree where they're like, oh, we need to do this. These are the guys doing this. So just be smarter about it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth saying that for every Big E who had this happen to them, and he gets away okay, relatively fine, you know, he'll have a recovery time, it'll be okay. But for every Big E that might be able to walk away from this and still have motor functions, there's someone at home in a wheelchair, or someone that's on a hospital bed that can't do that anymore because of something like that, you know. And it almost starts from the top as well. Like, someone will see moments like this, and like, kind of Spaceman's actually pointing this out, is like in TNA, Jeff was doing crazier bumps than he ever did in WWE, and for far less money. But things like this permeate, where if you see this at the top, like a company like WWE, and these spots are happening regularly, as you trickle down towards smaller companies and independent companies, like wrestlers who are trying to make a name for themselves and try and get out there, they're going to look at these things and, wow, these things got reaction. I need to do that. And it's scary when you think about that these people can look at this and go, that'll be a great spot for a match. And it'll be for, no disrespect, but that could be for like 15, 20 people, depending on where you're doing it. Like, where the risk and the reward is not the same. Like, sometimes you just got to keep it simple and keep it straight. I mean, we're talking about doing this a couple of weeks out to WrestleMania where it's terrible timing. Like, any time is a bad time to do this. You know, like
media saying like, you know, a schoolboy. He told me a story about, he used to be a wrestler, and somebody that didn't know what they were doing gave him a schoolboy, and because it went horribly wrong, he got injured and it cut his career short. So you never know what it's going to be, or like the D'Lo and Draws thing, all that stuff. But
yeah,
but I mean, but to your point, James, one of the things Rip Rogers used to say was, he's like, well, these kids don't know any better. They're just doing what they see on TV.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying. They look at this. They used to look at WWE as the goal. Maybe that's changed a little bit. There are more goals to reach now, but like in that time, they look at that. So they see what they're doing on TV and they emulate that. They want to be like that. They want to be those people. And, you know, of course that's what you're going to do. Of course I'm sure there's been many a kid wrestling in his backyard that's been maimed or crippled that we never hear of because they're not famous. But, they're trying to do something like they saw, and that's why they say don't try this at home. But we're beyond trying this at home. We're trying this in front of, thousands of people, and it can go horribly wrong. So just know what you need to do and not need to do. And remember that all those old grizzled guys that were saying, like, you're doing too much, kid, like, they weren't just trying to stop you from getting over. Even if they were, there is also a bonus aspect of they're trying to, they're letting you know that you can extend your career. The last person that should have to try to break their neck literally getting over is Big E. He's super over, and it's not because he took bumps.
Yeah, he'll be fine no matter what, kind of spaceman. Are you sure? Are you sure Rick Rogers didn't phone Big E and told him to walk it off?
100%.
Probably did. I think that's a good note to finish the show on. A very good part of perspective, and it should be something that I might try and get this on the free channels, at least this sort of part there, because I think a lot of people need to hear that. A lot of people need to hear that message. It's quite important that it gets out there. If you are a supporter of Hammy Media Group, when this comes out, can you make sure everyone sees this? And I mean that. I don't mean that to be sort of like share the show, get names out. It's like messages like that are so important in the grand scheme of things, as a wrestler, as a business sense, a professional sense, and just as a human element. Like, people need to hear that message. People need to know that there's bigger things in this world that you need to be working hard for, and you don't need to risk killing yourself or putting yourself in a situation you might never do again for the sake of a random show or like things like that. Like, accidents will happen, injuries can happen, but don't put yourself at risk for something that's going to be a bigger price than you're willing to pay. You know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of. So please get this out there. If you're listening to this on Channel Attitude, please just kind of, again, put this podcast out to your friends, send it out to them, send them out, let them listen to it, or even, I'd be quite keen if anyone is like a performer or someone who's on Channel Attitude or even Hammy Media Group. I'd be quite keen to get the thoughts of the likes of Hammy, Stevie Richards, beautiful people. EC3 is on Channel Attitude, so like the people like this who are, well, I'd be keen to kind of, I'd imagine they'd say the same things. I really would. I'd imagine they'd have similar thoughts on this, but I think it's a big talking point that doesn't get brought up enough. We've spent a good solid part of the past couple of hours kind of going on a Smackdown that's been terrible, but then what's a TV show if someone's going to be in a hospital bed for a little while, There's bigger things that matter.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate everybody being here, and anybody that is able to spread that, then I'm even more appreciative.
Absolutely. We'll certainly do that, and we'll try and get out as much as possible. But thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. Great show as well, despite the Smackdown and everything like this. It's I'm sorry it ends on a bit of a drab note, but important things are bigger things. But thank you so much for watching this show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Always, even for the Smackdown we've got, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you about this as well. I'm glad. If there's anyone I want to talk about this Smackdown, it's you. For sure. Like, it's anyone else, like even John's going to be here, he'd be the same. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you share this out. We're on at Hammy Media Group on Twitter, Hammy Media Discussion Group on Facebook if you want to get involved in the conversation. Follow Smack Attack at Smack Attack HMG. Find it on the ticker. If you've got any comments you want to make, send us a tweet or anything like that. I do read them. We do read these tweets and emails. And when you send an email to smackattackhammymedia@gmail.com, by the way, we read them. We will make the effort to read it. So please just stick on us with the socials. Get involved in the conversation. I'd love to hear some extended thoughts on the vets' comments as we ended the show. Anything about SmackDown. So please do get involved. If you want to support us monetarily, you can do Hammy Media Group on Patreon or Channel Attitude, part of the brand, that you can support us there. It costs about the same as a cup of coffee, if that, to get access to so much great content from Hammy Media Group, including the episodes of the Smack Attack that you don't get to see anywhere apart from a Channel Attitude. You'll get to see it live as we record it, but then good luck getting it after that. We're gone. So for Smack Attack, next level, the next level podcast that the vet is on, Impact Attack, which includes the vet. Light the Views. Light the Fuse, which may include the vet ones.
Yes, sometimes I did the Grand Slam last week, but
you did the Grand Slam. You're on a run. So the next level podcast, Light the Fuse, the Monday locker room, the Friday locker room. There's so much stuff to get on there, and that's just the tip of the iceberg to get into it. So please support us. If you want some free content from Hammy Media Group, we've got it. We've got so much great content. We've got the NFL. It's the Hammy Media affiliates channel. It's called Hammy Media Discussion Group. You'll find it anywhere you get your podcasts from. You'll get the NFO Star Trek podcast, the South Park's Up My Balls podcast, the Ridiculously Random podcast, I believe is on there now. I might be wrong, but I think it's on there. Or at least to do the podcast through the YouTube channel that you're watching this on, Hammy Media Group on.
That should be less than free. Everybody should get $1 who listens to it.
Yeah, that we deserve that payment for that there. When you saw the video game one, I was like, damn it, I went in on that one, but alas. There'll be one I'll get in on that. I'll be like, I'm going to bring. You thought that was bad. I'm bringing it right. So you listen to it there. And of course, the Academy Star Trek podcast. There will be a podcast soon, hopefully. We're working on getting that back up and again. But there's so many great episodes of that on the back catalogue. John will tell you himself. John Enright and Triple D talk all things Star Trek news, classic episodes, talking points, and all things that it comes down to your favorite stars, favorite storylines, all the way to your favorite ships. There's so much to get into, so go and listen to the back catalogue of the Star Trek podcast. It'd be much appreciated. And just everything you do for Hammy Media Group, it is much appreciated. Much appreciated. I'm getting a bit slippy towards the end of the show. I get a bit like, rest. Bed's coming my way soon.
Take another sip though, just to be sure.
Oh, I know. Keep myself sharp. You know when you get to the end of a working day, and your body just goes. That's pretty much what's happened to me.
When I get to the end of the working day, I go, I got to do Smack Attack.
Yeah, pretty much. I do that too, but then I get to the Smack Attack, my body goes, and rest. It just goes to the rest mode. But kind of space time. James, maybe you too can win a Hammy mode. Listen, I'd love it, but it's never happened. They're all going
right here. They're all going to me.
They're all going to him. No, I've got no hope because basically, right, the bits I can get into are producer of the year, host of the year, and at least both of those, if not one of them, Ben's involved in them. You don't beat the big man. You can't. You don't go over Ben. You just cannot. It cannot happen. So as hopeful as I would be, and pray God that you guys listen to this, if you are voting, if we ever do one again next year, go and just give me a vote or two. Give us a chance. But I just don't see it happening.
Well, I'll tell you what. After I win all mine, next time I do the show with you, Jays, I'll hold one up to the screen and let you touch it through the camera.
Just like, oh yeah, thank you.
I'll be like, that's the closest you're gonna get, but
it's like I helped.
Yeah,
that's all I'm getting from that.
Well, no, but even all kidding aside, like, you know, I wouldn't be anywhere to talk to you guys without guys like James and Ben and Colin and Ray. You know, I'm just the talent, but they make the show, and I just sit on the show. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the one over here manning the ones and twos, as you know, Conan will say. You know, I'm so I appreciate all these guys for, you know, making me sound good.
You make it easy. That's always the way thing you say, even to Eddie, when you're like, you make my job easy. Well, you can say that, you know you're doing well. But on that note, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Vet, for joining us for this episode. I love talking to you. Sure. 2 weeks in a row, you've helped us out. I'm sure we'll get you back in again at some point. Oh, yeah. Thank you, the chat. As always, lively as ever. Thank you, the listener. If you listen to this on channel, I should much appreciate for your time today. A good old 2.5 hour podcast. We'd love to see it. Thank you so much for watching. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. We will see you next week. 2 Smackdowns to go. Yeah, I'm not counting the Hall of Fame one. 2 to go until we get to the most stupendous 2-night Wrestlemania of all time. It can only get better from here, can't it? It can only improve. There's only one way to find out. Tune in next week for another edition of the Smack Attack. Jerry.